Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 425. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together and talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Superman 18, Wonder Woman 13, Batman Superman World's Finest 31, Dark Knights of Steel Allwinter issue 3, Jenny Sparks issue 2. We kind of have Batman The Last Halloween issue 0. I'll explain that when we get to it, why I say kind of. And Patreon book this week, a new Patreon book actually. I'm going to be talking about Planetary issue 1. So that's coming up, as well as the solicits for, I want to say December.
It is December.
It is December, okay. I haven't looked at them yet, so I did see one thing on Twitter, but for the most part, I'll be a journey of discovery. So
yeah, on Twitter I follow a DC Updates account, and that's how I always find out it's Solicits week. Because all of a sudden, this account that's usually pretty quiet is just constantly in my feed.
it has like 50 things to say once a month.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's how. So I saw a couple of things trickle in that are pretty interesting, but
that's a shame though. Because I used to like you not knowing it was Solicits week and then telling you it was Solicits week and then you looking very upset about it.
Well, this is what happens when you're chronically online and it's creating problems. So, yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. So yeah, that's the show coming up today. We are, in the latter chunk of September. The year is flying in, quite frankly. We're almost into spooky season. So, I'm sure there'll be some horror movie talk over the next month, but we're not quite there yet.
We're getting ever closer to 2025, which is a futuristic sounding date, and I personally don't like it.
Yep, no, that's fine. I cannot argue with that. How was your week, Matt?
Busy, and there's a full moon, so everything has just felt wonky. So, yeah.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
That's it. I literally have nothing. I know I watched some things, but nothing is coming to the front of, the forefront. So, yeah.
No, this is fair. I also have been busy. I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 again, so that's been kind of my spare time thing this week, has just been playing that. I watched a couple of interesting things for reviews, but I won't bring them up too much because they're not going to be out for a while. But yeah, I finally, the first half of the week I was very much struggling to like shift my sleep pattern a little bit. I was waking up too early, which is fine for a lot of my stuff, but if I have to record late with Tim at like 4 a.m. my time,
yeah,
bit of a struggle. So I had a bit of a rough transition over like Thursday, Friday, trying to realign my sleep schedule a little bit. But I was able to. It's actually nice this week that I'm not completely tired while we're recording as I was last time. So that's fun.
I feel like we're trading. It's like a Shazam thing. One of us has to be tired at all times.
Well, it's just the way it is, I guess. But yeah, we get into things. We got the Kindle rankings, the list formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. So obviously it's a mixed list these days, as it's been. Do you have a guess where number one is, Matt?
I'm gonna guess X-Men 4.
That's boring because it's just right. But yeah, right. Yeah, that's number one.
It's the 90s again. Batman and X-Cell. That's just it. Those books are there.
Yeah, number 2 is Avengers. Number 3 is X Factor. Number 4 is Wonder Woman. Number 5 is Dazzler. It's a new miniseries that started this week.
It's got a nice cover too by the couple that does those. I'm drawing a blank.
The Dodsons, man.
Dodsons, thank you. Yes.
Yes. Number 6 is Absolute Power Super Son. Number 7 is Superman. Number 8 is Jenny Sparks. Number 9 is World's Finest. And number 10 is Ultimate X-Men. So Marvel definitely dominate the top 5. Only one DC book in there, but it's actually a 5-5 split for the whole top 10. It's just Marvel takes most of the top half of it. So For a week where there's no straight Batman book, or straight event book, that's not too bad, all things considered.
No. And again, I only knew X-Men because of my comic shop had a big fat stack of them in physical, so I figured that was also selling digital pretty well. And looks like it did.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny Sparks, I think, is punching a little bit above its weight, which is nice. But yeah.
Tom King. I made the mistake of venturing into comic book Reddit.
Totally.
And it's not a place for me. Just a lot of the libel against Tom King and his writing style. It felt like I was dealing with 14 Connors. So, luckily I mostly just hang out and read stuff. I don't get involved in these conversations, but reading about Jenny Sparks too, and a lot of the criticisms, which there can be criticisms. It's not everything Tom King writes is perfect, but to see that same thing keep popping up about his writing style, and all the characters sound the same, and they bend them to fit the story, and I was like, wait, I thought that's what you're supposed to do as a storyteller, right? Like make the characters work in the context of your story, without changing them too much. So, yes.
I don't know. I guess I just don't care that much because he tends to like be focusing on characters that are obscure, and therefore I don't really have that much of an opinion on their.
Look, I love Guy Gardner. We all know this. And he made Guy Gardner a de facto heel in Human Target in certain points. Did I like that? No. Was it good for the story? Absolutely. It ended up playing out. So like, just let the stories play out, guys. It's issue 2. I feel like we've had this exact conversation 50 times before, and we're only having it again because you can't help but get triggered by people on the internet, Matt. So I'm putting this on you. Well, there's that, and it's also just I also, when I see that, I try to just figure out where it's coming from because I don't see it. I feel like people are telling me there's something there, and I'm like, I don't see it whatsoever. Like every time Connor would bring it up, I don't know where he's coming from. So it's just me trying to understand the opposite side. But yes.
I don't care. I don't care where it comes from. I can just move on in my life. I don't have time to figure out everything. Also worth mentioning the Long Halloween Zero issue, the Long Halloween Zero issue. Last Halloween. No, it's not. This book's Long Halloween.
That's right. It's a super long title. The Long Halloween, the Last Halloween.
Right. But yeah, that was number 12, which is actually pretty good given it's a reprint. It's not new. But we'll talk a bit more about that later. Number 14 was Darkness of Steel Allwinter, which seems pretty good for that book. So, they're not a terrible week for DC going by these rankings, but not like a spectacular one either. So, there you go. But with that said, we can get just straight into the solicits. These are the solicits for December of this year. Final month of the year. So we'll just start working through them here. It starts off with Justice League Unlimited issue 2, Mark Waid, Dan Mora. Obviously, we're looking forward to this new book starting. So not much we can say as of yet, but obviously it's one of these wraparound covers with a shit ton of characters on it.
Just about everybody. I did see a blurb from Mark Waid earlier in the week where he said that he has a core characters that he wants to use, and then someone like Star Sapphire who he's never written before, right? So he's pretty excited to use. But then it's also calling up Dan Mora and be like, hey, who do you want to draw? And him working that in. So I think that's pretty fun. So then when you see them all on this cover like this, I feel like it's giving us the scope of what's to come.
Then we got Batman 157, which I don't know. What's this? Something. I'm trying to figure out who the hell this like weird crossover of Superman and Captain America is that's on the cover here. You're not looking at it, Matt?
No, I am. I don't know. You're talking about 157, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's. Is this Hush? No, it's not Hush.
Make that bigger. Yeah, I don't think so. It looks like. I I'd be crazy. It looks like U.S. Agent, but that's a Marvel character. So, yeah, I don't know.
But that's
what
a Superman S on the chest, though, is it not?
It kind of looks like one. So, but I don't think it's a full S if I'm looking close.
Okay.
Because there's stars. There's a star in it, so it comes down kind of like when Bucky was Cap and he wore his here. So it kind of does. So maybe it's meant to, elicit the response of an S. So whoever this is supposed to be.
The solicit text mentions the Court of Owls, so I don't know who this. Maybe this is just a new character that Zdarsky's going to torture us with. I mean, I hate to be pessimistic, guys. I do, but like this character's design is not filling me with confidence. I have to say. And
you neglected to mention there's like a Spawn-esque cape on top of it that he's wearing.
I don't even think my brain registered that was attached to him. I just thought that was background stuff.
Yeah. So.
Oh dear. Yeah. Well, only one issue of Batman in December though. That's nice.
Yeah.
Unless they've spread them out through the solicits to give me a nasty surprise.
That's what I was thinking too, but I want to put that out.
But they normally put them together. They did the last couple of months, so it seems like we're back to just the one a month, which is nice for my sanity at the very least. The New Gods issue 1, Ram V and Evan Cage. Now this obviously is new, but it's not a surprise. We knew this was coming. It had been announced previously at Comic-Con. Yeah. So yeah, exciting, regular size, all the usual stuff. It's got a pretty fun cover. Yeah, I don't really much to say except can't wait for a new Ram V book. So looking forward to it. We got Absolute Batman issue 3. Which not much to say except the symbol on his chest keeps growing in size. I feel like it's going to be taking over the world by the time we get to issue 10.
Snyder and Dragotta are definitely messing with people, right? Like each time it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a shit looking bat logo because it's just this like, it's almost a rectangle with just a few points at the top and bottom.
It looks like a brick.
Yeah,
But and if this is just Batman running around hitting people with bricks, I'm definitely still in.
But I appreciate them getting into the joke of being really big and keep getting larger. I'm all for that. But I do think the base logo is a bit shit. But
No, yeah, definitely, and maybe there's a reason for that too, because we still haven't read any of this character.
Yeah. So we got Metamorpho, the Element Man issue 1. New. I'm going to assume miniseries. Doesn't say that, but I'm going to assume it. It's Al Ewing writing with Steve Lieber on the art. Did we know about this?
Nope. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
Yeah, we knew Al Ewing was coming to DC because he's got one of the Absolute books, but this is a second Al Ewing DC book. That's kind of cool. That's kind of exciting.
Very cool, and it's with like a lower tier character with a Lieber's art is definitely kind of perfect for Metamorpho. So
here's my question though: on the cover of this book. Why is he holding what appears to be the star of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I'm just assuming now that they want Sarah Michelle Gellar to play Sapphire in the DCU. That's all I can...
It kind of looks like her, though. That's the first thing I thought when I looked at that cover.
It does.
Yeah, I'm assuming it is Sapphire, obviously. Who else would it be?
Yes.
Unless Metamorph was...
stepping out.
He's wandering a bit.
But it looks like Simon and Java are behind them at the edge of the pool.
Because of Batman and the Outsiders that I read for Patreon last week, this is fresh in my brain. I'm surprised Java's not face palming in the background, being upset that he's not holding her himself.
You know what? If I can zoom in, it kind of does look like a face palm.
Dear. Yeah. So that's cool.
This is exciting because I love Steve Lieber's work on the Jimmy Olsen book, and then he worked with Mark Russell on another. It was about was it with one of the lower tier characters as well, and it had to do with them doing like a superhero Uber type deal where you call them for help, and that was fun. So this seems to be right up his alley.
Yeah, then we got Superman 21, more Superman, Superwoman stuff with Lois, and we got Doomsday underneath them, which is kind of a fun visual. Not that I'm in love that we're doing Doomsday stuff necessarily, but we'll see how it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, a lot of fun covers on that one too. Looking through them all.
So, Absolute Superman issue 2. by Aaron Sandoval. Wonder Woman 16, and we have a very noir pulp kind of book cover style cover for this one. We got Detective Chimp with Diana exposing the truth, apparently.
Yep. That's a great cover.
Redondo on this issue. That's an interesting artist for this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still kind of wish Sam Pierre was doing all the issues, but if you're going to have someone else step in, I'm not mad at Redondo.
Never mad at Redondo.
Not mad at all. Absolute Wonder Woman, issue 3 there as well. Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman. Detective Comics 1092. We have Batman and Robin on the cover with a character that, is that like a scarecrow, maybe? Or maybe it's someone new. I don't know, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it looks like a scarecrow type character. Has the hand wraps and everything.
I would say it's skewing towards feminine, but I mean, maybe it is just I
had thought it was nobody for a second, but then upon closer examination, it's definitely not her.
Yeah. Well, there's a character mentioned in the Solicit that's a new character, so I'm going to assume it's them. Azuma.
Yeah. Who is a scalpel-fingered creature collecting the plasma of young men? And what is Asima's connection to Bruce Wayne?
Is plasma a euphemism or what? I mean, it probably just means the blood, but I don't know. Sounds a bit dodgy. Action Comics 1078. We got Mark Waid with Tamaki still on the backup, which is very cool. So yeah, a lot of supporting super characters on the cover. Supergirl's front and center with the Superboys and Natasha Steele kind of like around her, which is kind of fun. Action Comics 1079 is also there, as is 1080 and 1081. So that is weekly in December, which it had been as well. I guess it's the last month of it though, because I think it was like 3 months of weekly, kind of like the Tower was at Detective. That's what we compared it to. And not just because Tamaki was involved in that as well.
No, just, the type of story that's being told.
Yeah. Next up, we got Nightwing 121, Dan Waters, Dexter Soy. Nightwing is fighting people with bunny masks on. Best I can tell. I mean, I'm curious. I'm curious what this is. We'll see, I guess. Batman and Robin 16, Philip Kennedy Johnson, writing with Miguel Madoncha. Wait a minute. Is he on the next issue of Batman and Robin?
Yes.
Johnson?
That was the last, I thought we talked about that last week when we covered Batman and Robin.
Well, I knew that was the last Williamson issue. But for some reason, when we finished that issue, my thought was, I'll try the next one, but it's probably going to suck, because I didn't remember that Philip Kennedy Johnson was writing that.
Oh, no. I don't even remember you saying that, though. I didn't think you said I thought you were just like, we're going to, we had Philip Kennedy Johnson come on, so we're maybe I didn't say it out loud,
but I had a pessimistic thought in my head of, it's probably just a one and done, because it's probably going to suck. And then it turns out to be Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yep.
So cool. Batman and Robin 16. Neat. All right. Challengers of the Unknown issue 1 by Christopher Cantwell and Sean Isaacs. How do you feel about this?
I'll check this one out. I like the concept of the challengers, so curious to see how they fit in with the Justice League going forward, because it looks like there's some Justice League characters in this
the Trinity
lineup.
Or with them. Yeah, and they've all got like their color scheme changed to match the challengers.
To match the Challenger of the Unknown,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'll try it, but I mean, we'll see. Then we have Superwoman Special issue 1. Written by Joshua Williamson and art by Edwin Gammon. This is the 48-page one-shot, obviously, focusing on Lois. Which, I'm not mad at a Lois-focused one-shot. I mean, but more of Williamson's Superman run's not something that I necessarily want either.
I plead the fifth.
And we're already getting like another special soon, right? There's a special coming for his run in the next few weeks. Yes. And then, so I don't know.
He's just adding pages, and not even in issues. Just he's in specials.
I think he wanted specials. I think he wanted Action Comics as well, and they said no, you can't have that. Mark Waid's doing stuff over there. And he's like, oh, fine. Well, give me specials every month. Fine.
I'll take 10 48-page specials. Oh, wait, chill.
All right, Batgirl issue 2. Oh, that cover. It's very, very nice. That's a very nice cover. As Matt's just running away for some reason. Oh, I think he's letting the cat out. Yes. No, Cass is in an outfit sort of jumping, and there's like bats all swarming at the bottom like a horror movie, and then I'm assuming that's her mother in the background in the cloud looking all kind of evil-esque. But no, really fun cover. This is one of the things I'm not only am I most excited for it because I love the idea of getting a solo Cass book again, but I'm also excited for it just because it was such an out of nowhere surprise. I did not I had no expectation we even had a possibility of getting a book like this. So hopefully I like it.
Me too.
Yes. Gotham City Sirens Uncovered issue 1. Cover collection. Not much to say. Harley Quinn 46 by Elliot Kalan and Mindy Lee. Poison Ivy 28, which I'm sure you're into. Yeah, I'm sure there's some perverted covers that you're gonna like, probably.
Not perverted. There's a nice one, third one over. Looks like a fission.
I mean, it's a little bit like bait.
Oh no, there's the fission. That's the purple and blue. There's the fission.
And the one before the last one, the second last one, like she's her ass is basically sticking at the camera here. So there's definitely some perv bait. Like no denying it. Catwoman 71 by Toron Grumbeck and Mariana Ignazi. I just wanted to say Grumbeck again. So fun. Birds of Prey 16, which funnily enough is featuring Cass as the main cover star here. Funnily, so Cass is really getting her time in the sun right now between Birds of Prey and her own book. But yes, it's still Thompson with Sammy Basri on the art. So super fun. Batman and Robin Year 1 issue 3. This is the Mark Waid and Samney book, which we haven't had issue 1 of yet, but obviously there's so many books starting that I'd forgotten about half of these because we've not had issue 1s yet, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a thing. There'll be so many books to read over the next few months.
Yeah, and stuff like this though too, that it's kind of hard to argue against wanting to read it.
Oh yeah, you can.
Maybe I'll catch up when it's collected. It's kind of like I don't know. Waid and Samney on Batman and Robin, and it's an early day story. Kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, you're reading that. You know you are. It's just so funny because there's nothing that's kind of borderline where maybe it'll get dropped because there's so many books. Like everything feels pretty must read. Maybe 1 or 2 will be surprisingly stinkers. I mean, but they're all pretty must read.
If I have to sacrifice a book, it's gonna start with Zdarsky's Batman, right? It's not gonna be a Waid and Samney book.
I mean, sure you drop you read other stuff that's less interesting. I'm sure. Do you not?
Yeah, no, I do. But I'm just saying, if push comes to shove, I'm definitely siding with Waid. That's all.
I mean, that's fair, but don't be a dick and leave me reading Zdarsky Batman on my own. That's just cruel.
You don't have to read it, Pete, if you're not enjoying it.
Yes, I do. I got to do it. Anyway, Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue 4. Which, again, just call it The Last Halloween. It's a great title. It's closely connected to Long Halloween. You don't have to have both. Anyway, obviously excited for that, too.
This is the art by Cliff Chiang book, because I guess each of the books are going to have a different artist.
Yes.
So this is the Cliff Chiang one, so it should look pretty good.
Batman Dark Patterns, issue 1. So this is a new 12-issue series, which... It doesn't say that in the solicit. I only know that because Dan Waters said that on Twitter, and I happened to see it. So this is a 12-issue limited series by Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman on the art. I'll read the description of this one, since you're wondering what this is. Set during the early years of Batman's career, Batman Dark Patterns delves into 4 mysterious cases as he attempts to cement his place as Gotham City's protector, while the city itself fights back against him. This is the Dark Knight detective at his most stripped-down core, a man relying on his wits, his skills, his little else to tackle some of the most twisted mysteries in Gotham City and its protector I've ever encountered. Case 1, We Are Wounded. So I'm assuming since it's 4 cases, it'll be 3 issues per case, if that's how they're doing it.
The math does math.
Yeah. A series of sickeningly gruesome murders has sent shockwaves through Gotham. Are these random works of a serial killer, or are they something more sinister at play? Batman attempts to get to the bottom of the mystery before any more victims are claimed. Honestly, this sounds great.
This is the closest to the Black Case book style book that I think we've ever gotten.
For me, this is just a case of like early days Batman stories are just potentially so much fun, and I think if I have another like collection I can recommend, like, okay, read Year One, read Long Halloween and Dark Victory, read the Man Who Laughs, or Batman the Man Who Laughs. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Right. If I can throw this into the pile and say, hey, here's another like set of him, like just Batman solving serial killer cases in that era, that sounds great. Yeah, do it. It's actually that's the thing is, like, sometimes people complain there's too many Batman books, and arguably there is, but between Absolute Batman getting added, this getting added, and all these other things, but they all sound good. They all have good teams. They all have good premises.
Like, as a known Batman hater, and I don't mean like I hate Batman, I mean as like as the kids say, hater, right? Like, I'm very critical of Batman. It's not the character's fault that these writers have these types of ideas, right? Like, Dan Waters also has shown an understanding of the Gotham underworld, right? Because he's the writer that took on Ten-Eyed Man and made him so much fun to read. So I'm curious to see what this would be like.
Hey, if some of that atmosphere is in there, I certainly will not be complaining.
Yep. No. So,
but I mean, to be fair as well, because of the Absolute line, we now have like an extra Green Lantern book, an extra Wonder Woman book, an extra Superman book, and probably soon an extra Flash book. I mean, they've not announced that yet, but I mean, I feel like it's probably on the horizon. What's this surprise? Two-Face issue 1. Christian Ward writing with Fabio Virus on the art. After year, this is probably a miniseries. It doesn't say that, but because they don't tell us,
Christian Ward, like.
Well, it's not just that, but it's just what the book is. I just have to judge it and make a guess, and I'm guessing this is a 6-issue miniseries, and that's probably it. That's my guess. Anyway, after years of internal conflict, both halves of Harvey Dent have reached an uneasy peace. Now, Harvey will use his skills as an attorney to resolve the conflicts of Gotham's weirdest and most dangerous criminals, starting with Victor Zsasz. When Zsasz is accused of murdering a fellow member of Gotham's underworld contingent, who better to prove a criminal's innocence than someone who's been on both sides of the law? So this is a story about Two-Face becoming a lawyer for other villains in Gotham. I mean, it's an interesting premise. I cannot deny it.
Nope.
What did Christian Ward do that I really liked? I feel like he did a Black Label book recently, did he not?
Yeah, he did the Batman where he goes to the opposite side. What was that called? The Cthulhu Batman.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
The Cthulhu Batman. He did.
That's not what it was called, but yeah.
Yeah. He did the art for Andromeda. That's pretty good.
That was great. But I knew he'd written something. I just couldn't remember what it was. Yeah. But no, that Batman Cthulhu thing was. It wasn't perfect. It had some flaws, but it was so rich in ideas and looked so good that it was a great read. So. Okay, yeah, I think based on the premise sounding kind of interesting and Christian Ward being there, at least he's not doing the art though. We're not getting Christian Ward art. We're getting Fabio Veris art, and I don't know what that looks like. I assume it might be, well, no, because the cover's by Baldemar Rivas. So
yeah, and there's a Christian Ward and a Chris Somney variant too. So yeah, we don't know. We don't have any of his.
Yeah, well, that Somney variant's quite nice.
Yes, it is.
Very nice. Why is your mouse clicker so loud, Matt? I don't know. I swear you have your mic pointed at the mouse, and then it might pick up your voice as well if we're lucky.
I do not know.
Okay,
they're across the mic's here, the mouse is here, so I don't know. The mic's this way.
You need a mic arm, Matt. You need to get the mic in close to you and away from everything else. It's such an improvement. Batman Superman World's Finest 34. We're doing Batgirl stuff in this issue. And Super Pet stuff, apparently. Okay. Super Pets have gone berserk. Metropolis and Gotham City stand on the verge of ruin. And Batgirl and Jimmy Olsen are going to be the ones that... Alright, okay.
Okay.
I'm in.
I don't think I've ever seen that combination before.
Hey, gingers have to stick
I was
together.
gonna say, gingers unite.
I do love Batgirl Babs in her blue, grey, and yellow outfit.
Yes.
I do have a fondness for that old school stuff. Titans 18, John Layman's and Pete Woods. Yeah, cool. Nice colourful cover. We got JSA issue 2, Jeff Lemire with Diego Olortegui on the art. Obviously, we're excited for this, but can't really say much yet. Black Canary, Best of the Best, issue 2 by Tom King and Ryan Sook. I forgot this was a thing. No,
not me.
Because they only just announced it last Solicits, so I just completely forgot it existed. And the cover's really nice as well. It's like a little girl with like an adult's leather jacket around her, and then in the mirror reflection, it's Black Canary. So I presume this is Dinah as a kid, and then looking at the mirror and seeing herself as an adult. So it's a really pretty cover. You've got all the light coming through the blinds that are somewhere in the room. It's really nice stuff. Black Lightning issue 2 by Brandon Thomas and Fico Ozio. We got The Flash 16 by Cy Spurrier and Vasco Georgiev. We got Green Lantern 18, Jeremy Adams, Zormanico on this issue, which is cool. It's a very nice cover as well.
Very, very light driven. You got some greens and purples and or violets rather. So.
And they are doing United Planet stuff, like they promised, so that's cool. Green Arrow 19 by Chris Condon and Montos. Montos on art.
Yes.
Green Lantern, Green Arrow, World's Finest Special issue 1.
Yep, and look at the creative team.
It's Jeremy Adams writing with art by Lucas Meyer and Travis Mercer. Well, I mean...
Yep.
Look, if this was the Green Arrow writer, I'd probably just ignore it. But because it's Adams from Green Lantern, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm in for this now. So yeah, we get an interesting one shot. Okay, that's a nice surprise. Power Girl issue 16, Leah Williamson and Adrián Mello. Shazam 18 by Josie Campbell and Dan McDade. And it looks like, based on the cover, that Mary's going to have to deal with Savannah's, like, was it daughter? Yeah, Lady Savannah. The Question All Along the Watchtower issue 2 by Alex Segura and Cian Turmey. I definitely forgot this existed from last Solicits. Hey, they've announced so many goddamn books for like September, for October through December. You know,
this is Montoya as the sheriff of the Watchtower. I distinctly remember. I'll never forget this one.
I mean, yeah, I remember you say that, and that is a cool premise. It's got a cool cover as well. I'm down for Montoya books. Milestone Universe Shadow Cabinet issue 2. We have DC Horror Presents issue 3. Frank Avila stuff in there. Oh man.
Written and drawn. Wow.
DC Horror Presents Creature Commandos issue 3.
Dawson Alchian book. I forgot. Yeah. See, this is the one that I forgot about.
We got some facsimile editions, which I'll just sort of breeze by, because if you really care about facsimile editions, you can go check those out for yourself.
Yeah.
Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns issue 2 by Jeff Parker. Yeah, because they're doing this again for Christmas season. Issue 3 is also solicited here, as is issue 4 and 5. So it's a 5-issue series this time. Cool. It was only 4 issues last year, I think.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Or 2 years ago. I think was it actually last year or was it the year before?
It was last year.
Okay, it was last year. So that's cool. That's why it's starting in November then, because they have to, well, obviously they can't have it go into January. That'd just be weird. But cool. I'm down for more Jeff Parker at DC. Yep. Green Lantern Dark issue 2. I forgot about this. Jesus. Tate Brombal writing with Werther Daldera on the art, if I'm saying that right. I do like the coloring on that cover. The use of the shadows with the green light is quite nice. Darkness of Steel Allwinter issue 6, which is the final issue of Allwinter, coming out in December. DC vs. Vampires World War V issue 5. We have The Nice House by the Sea issue 6. And that says of 12. What these ones are saying that they're, Plastic Man No More issue 4, all 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, that first issue was good. So Christopher Cantwell, been on one of those new books that we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
does make me a bit more optimistic as well. Batman Gargoyle of Gotham issue
Yeah.
3 by Raphael Grampa. Yes.
This is the book that I didn't remember if I read until I started reading it. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I read this.
Yeah, to be fair, there's been a massive gap between issue 2 and 3, so I wouldn't have necessarily made fun of you that much if you'd forgotten it again now. But no. I feel like I'll have to go back and reread the first 2 before I read this one.
I remember it being very moody, and that really struck a tone.
Yeah, I remember how it looks. Like I remember what the Batsuit looks like and stuff. Jenny Sparks issue 5. Of 7. I thought it was 6, interestingly. So yeah, fair enough. I'll take one extra.
Maybe they gave him an extra.
Maybe they did. Yeah, maybe they threw him some more pages. Batman Full Moon issue 3. This is your werewolf Batman story. Which Matt, I mean, it's got Subicon art, right?
Yeah.
For one, but also you're a parody of yourself, and we'll read anything that's werewolf based. So there you go.
True.
Our 80-page anthology DC book for Christmas is called DC's Batman Smells and Robin Laid an Egg.
Oh boy.
I appreciate what they're playing with.
Yeah.
Now, we've not really done these anthology books for years at this point, but I'm especially not going to do it this year when there's so many new books launching. But
yes,
it's nice that they exist. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, let's give them a bit of credit for doing something creative with the title.
Yeah. That said, there's a Lee Bermo cover with Deadman and like Joker Santa Claus that looks pretty cool. And it's just making me think of Art the Clown with his Santa hat on, to be honest, from Terrifier 3. Which, by the way, Matt, the early buzz is saying that movie is bloody, brutal, and violent.
Yeah. Yes.
Extra
so.
Christmas is going to come early, baby.
We ventured out to Spirit Halloween last night, so my wife could see the Art the Clown animatronic that they're selling for like $300. And I definitely feel like if you buy that, you should be put on a watch list, because I don't trust it. I'm just saying,
I just love that she's a fan now too. She's into Art of the Clown.
She said that he's a funny guy. I was like, he cut a woman in half. The not the way that you think. He's not just a funny guy. But yes.
Hey, the food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe.
That's correct.
Little Batman Month 1 issue 2. And then we got Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries 12 and Scooby-Doo Where Are You 131. That wraps up the single issues. Onto the collections, there is Absolute Power collected in hardcover.
Coming out in February.
Yeah, it's for February. Yeah, they're always a little bit more in advance for the collections.
That's still a pretty quick turnaround for the event.
Yeah. Does it mention here like what it includes?
184 pages.
It doesn't say, I don't think, in the text. What I mean, obviously it includes issue 1 through 4 and probably the 0-issue prelude thing. But it doesn't. The page count to me doesn't suggest that it includes any of the tie-ins.
No.
So fair enough.
Because even with 184 pages, it's not a lot, right?
No.
So that's maybe 5 issues worth of things. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Checks out.
I don't know if it's big enough in total to do something called an omnibus, but I could see a big deluxe hardcover later on that has a lot of the tie-ins in it. Admittedly, Absolute Power Origins, which is next here, collected in softcover, does make sense as its own little collection. As does Absolute Power Task Force 7, which is those 6 effectively one-shots.
So that's 6 issues, right? And that's 176 pages. So give or take up here with 184.
Yeah, well, there's less Absolute Power issues, but they're longer.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Mystic U Freshman Year Enchantments. This is that sort of Zatanna Magic School book that was.
That's right.
This is a while ago now, right?
A long while ago.
Yeah. So that's got a soft cover. Harley Quinn's Bud and Lou Terrible Times 2. This looks like a graphic novel rather than a collection. Just based on it. We have Deceased Compact Edition. which they've been doing these. Same with Static Season 1 Compact Edition, Birthright Superman Compact
Jeez.
Edition, Batwoman Elegy Compact Edition. Then we got DC's Finest Doom Patrol, The World's Strangest Heroes, which is a 600-page softcover, a bit big for a softcover, but this is Doom Patrol 86 to 102, plus some Brave and the Bold and a couple other random issues of things. Is this a particular like run that it's doing here, or because it's not like a volume 2? Because given that it starts at 86, I would have thought, oh, that's like volume 4 in a series.
Maybe it's like a wild card collection of stuff that didn't fit, stuff that was in between runs or whatever. I don't know. Because calling it the World's Strangest Heroes also, like you said, it's not a volume.
No, I wonder though, because like I know Birds of Prey by Gail Simone got a few collections and they didn't number them. I'm wondering if it's just like that, where this is technically like volume 4,
right?
In a set. It's just that they're not numbering them because that's annoying, but it sells more books.
So it just says it collects stories from March 64 to November 66 from the page of My Greatest Adventure, Doom Patrol, The Brave and the Bold, Challenge of the Unknown, and Teen Titans 6.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe
it's worth mentioning though. Doom Patrol and My Greatest Adventure are just like chunks. They're not like different random issues. It is a stretch of time. Anyway, DC's Finest Green Arrow Longbow Hunters softcover.
Never out of print. This one's always coming back.
Yeah, but this isn't just that series though. This is like this is basically your first collection in like an entire like Mike Grell run, because this has got the issues 1 to 3 of Longbow Hunters, but it also has the first 8 of the actual ongoing and a few other tie-in issues. So clearly this is going to be something to do a volume 2 of, and presumably finish his entire run in this format. DC's Finest Harley Quinn, Birth of the Mirth. Yeah, cool. Paul Dini and co. DC's Finest Teen Titans, The Judas Contract. Also reprint stuff here. Absolute Superman Red Sun. So I assume that's had a Red Sun before, or a Absolute before. Maybe it hasn't, but it seems like one.
Maybe it hasn't, yeah.
Batman 89 Echoes softcover, Batman and Robin by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, book 2. So this is your second sort of thick softcover. Doing 15 to 28 and annual 1 to 2. So I assume that's the end of it, right? If this is the New 52 run?
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Batman and Robin Volume 2, as in Williamson's current series, Volume 2. We got Batman by James Tynion IV Omnibus, Volume 1. So that's kind of cool. That's got Batman 107 to 111, which doesn't sound like that much, but it also has like a couple of annuals, the Warzone special, a Secret Files issue, Pennyworth RIP, Joker 1 to 4, Punchline special, 80th anniversary 100-page spectacular. Like this has 1,000 pages, and even though it's technically James Tynion's Batman run, and it's 1,000 pages, it only actually has 5 issues of Batman in it, which is wild. That's so much extra stuff that he was doing around that time.
Oh yeah, because the Alpha and Omega type stuff too, right? There's so much stuff that was in there.
Oh no, wait, hold on. I tell a lie. They've just split them up here. So it's actually got 86 to 105 and then 107 to 111. But for some reason they've split them up in the list. That was, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of other like one shots and like miniseries in there.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as silly as just 5 issues. It's more like 10.
But it's missing 106. So he must have not done 106?
I assume so, yeah. Maybe that was a tie-in to an event or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can assume. Batman Volume 4, Dark Prisons. That's Zarsky's newest volume, hardcover. Batman Volume 4, War, Jokes and Riddles, New Edition, which is obviously from Tom King's run. Isn't it wild that the runs that were happening in our first year of the show are getting like new editions now? Like,
yeah,
been doing this a while. World's Finest Volume 5, Secret Origins hardcover, which is World's Finest 18 to 19 and 25 plus the annual. Wait, what was 28 to 24? Was that a different run or a different arc? That just sounds confusing. Doesn't matter. Whatever.
No.
Batman Nightfall Omnibus Volume 2. This is just under 1,000 pages. I don't remember if this is like the end of it, or if there's a volume 3 of this coming. I don't remember how long it is to tell you, but no, I mean it says Night Quest, which I think means that it is just the middle chapter. Because even the old paperbacks of Nightfall were pretty thick. So I think this is just an expanded version of those in hardcover. And oversized as well, to be fair. Brave and the Bold, Volume 2, The Book of Destiny, by Mark Waid. That's worth mentioning. We got Forever Evil Omnibus.
Dang.
I know. That's 1,200 pages, has the main miniseries, but also has the tie-in miniseries from the same time, plus a couple of issues of various books that were tying in. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Rogues Rebellion. I'm trying to remember some of these. Like, I know I read them, because that was my period where I was reading everything. Like Arkham War, I don't even remember what that was about.
I don't know if I read Arkham War. I definitely read Rogues Rebellion, and I definitely read...
I read the Argus, I think.
And I read Justice League and Justice League of America, which were full... They had full arcs that were tying in. Basically, if you were reading the event, you wanted to read them all in the right order, so it was like, you know, event issue 1, then Justice League, then JLA, and then so on, so on.
Right.
Okay. I think I read Rogues Rebellion, but I don't think I read Arkham War at the time, or the Argus miniseries. But yeah, it seems to have everything, which is cool. Flash by Grant Morrison and Mark Miller Deluxe Edition. This isn't even after Mark Waid's run. This is actually in the middle of Mark Waid's run. Mark Waid took like a year off or something like that, and then Morrison and Miller came in and did a couple of arcs. I've never read it, but I know that's where it fits. So, given that you can get omnibuses of all of Waid's run and Johnsy's run, it's nice that you can get a similar sized hardcover for this little insert now. So for completion's sake, I appreciate it. Green Lantern War Journal Volume 2, softcover, obviously the back half of that story. Icon versus Hardware, softcover. John Constantine Hellblazer Dead in America, softcover. Justice Society of America Volume 2, this is the recent John series. Hardcover, this one is. Finishing up that. Then we got Legion of Superheroes, The Great Darkness Saga, Deluxe Edition. So, there you go, that's a 400-page hardcover. Then we got Milestone Compendium 4, which is a 1,300-page softcover, which is insanity. Prez by Mark Russell and Ben Caldwell, Deluxe Edition.
Oh, that'll be good to read. I missed that one, and it's kind of hard to find. So the fact that they're getting a deluxe.
I'm sure you can read it digitally anytime you want, Matt.
Yeah, I know, but for something like that, I'd like to have it, you know. It's Mark Russell. I'm trying to pick up all that stuff, Wonder Twins, and...
Sure.
Yeah.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Volume 1 Absolute Edition. We all know Alan Moore loves when DC makes more money off of his stuff, so I'm sure he's yelling at a cloud right now as we speak.
Oh, and if he's yelling at a cloud, that means he's doing spells, so...
Yeah. Well, by the way, when I say that, I'm not even I'm not even saying he's wrong to be upset, because DC and Warner Brothers have definitely pulled some shit over him.
For sure.
But it's just such like a caricature at this point to joke about Alan Moore being mad at DC for whatever. Shazam Volume 2. This is the second volume in the Mark Waid, Josie Campbell one. In fact, this actually lists them both, meaning that it probably crosses over into Campbell's issues here, 7 to 12. Softcover, Static, Shadows of Dakota, softcover, Superman Action Comics Volume 3, Revenge of the Demon. And this is the... I don't know if it's the end. Is it the end of Johnson's run?
It's the end of Johnson's run. They did the stuff with the crossover worlds, and you know they came and took one of the twins, and that's where it resolved. Because there was that special that it ended on.
Well, yeah, I wasn't asking like the content or like the plot. I just meant like I couldn't see the numbers of the issues anywhere, which is why I was questioning.
Gotcha.
So I mean, do you know for sure this is like containing those final issues?
I think so, because that was the last story he did was Revenge of the Demon, So I
Oh,
don't.
fair. No, fair. If you
Yeah.
remember that name for the arc, then fair enough. But there was
Yeah.
no information in the solicit actually saying what the issues were.
Yeah.
The Boy Wonder hardcover, the Junie Ba book that just wrapped up. Red Hood, The Hill softcover. Far Sector Deluxe Edition, so that's getting a nice big deluxe. And that wraps up the solicits. That was a beefy one. Bunch of new things, a lot of collections, a lot of them reprints, admittedly, but that's I mean that's good. I mean, keep things in print by all means, but
yes,
I almost feels that they don't need to be in the solicits though. You could put out like a separate like collection solicits that we don't have to look at.
that would be nice.
That said, I suppose we could just not do the collections, but I feel like we might as well since we're
but sometimes they tack stuff on at the end and we miss things, right? Like sometimes the solicits get out of order.
That's true. That's true.
Compiling them, so
yeah. Okay. That was a lot of talking without a break. I'm ready. I'm ready to be done. Like now, I want a break. We don't build in breaks into this show. Maybe we should have breaks. We should have like a break to go for a piss and have a snack.
I mean, you control the start and the stop, so like, I don't know what you're pleading to the audience.
Because they have this hold on me where no, I have to do it. And do you know what it is? The recording software, Matt, not even recently, a while ago now, added a pause button to the recording, so I wouldn't even have to edit it. I could just hit pause and then unpause it, and then it would be.
Wait, does that work like a dump button? So if we say things that you don't like, you can just pause and unpause, or would that mess everything else up?
No. It just literally pauses the recording, Matt. That's all.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's all.
Gotcha.
That's all.
So I'm in no fear of being censored.
No.
Okay.
Unless you say something so heinous like you do occasionally, and I remember to go in and manually edit it.
Mark there.
You wouldn't believe some of the shit Matt said on this show that I've had to edit out just to make sure that we don't get death threats, we don't get cancelled off the internet.
Yet he leaves the Connor stuff in, so he really must like me.
And at least 3 foreign governments who would definitely try to assassinate Matt if they'd heard some of the things he'd said.
You know what? No, diplomatic immunity.
Okay.
But if you need a break, we can take a break.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
We fooled around for like a minute there. It's just anyway. Not like that, everyone. Get your heads out of the gutter.
He hit the pause button. I'm not allowed to talk about what happened.
All right. Superman 18, legacy number 861. Joshua Williamson writing with Jamal Campbell on the art. All right. So this is tying in again, of course, to Absolute Power. It kind of wraps up Superman and Zatanna's little mini quest to go and unlock the underground passages through the multiverse.
Yeah, I give all of the editors credit for lining up the main issues with Absolute Power, right? So they all feel like we're doing stuff in time, right? So like, because we're aware of what's going on with Wonder Woman.
To an extent, I will say that last Absolute Power did have like all of the like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, who all have tie-in books going on right now. All of them came back having finished their stories at the end of last Absolute Power. So these like third issues of all these little mini arcs that are tying in are technically behind, but it's easy enough to follow because it's like, okay, we understand this is what they're doing just before they get back. I will say though, I do think out of the Superman issues, this is the weakest one. This one felt really just kind of like a shrug team for me. I just didn't really get much out of it. It
resolves very quickly considering the stakes that are at hand here. Finding the dark pathways and dealing with Neron and making deals, and it resolves extra quick, and that was a bit disappointing. So
yeah, I didn't hear what you said there, so if I'm repeating something you just said, apologies. Probably but not. Neron was just a big dud. Like nothing interesting came from Neron being here.
And he's DC's effective like devil, like Satan, like he's the one that makes deals. He's the one that made the deal with Felix Faust, right? So if he's making a deal to Clark, this feels like it should have been a big deal, and you turn the page, and now we're done. And so it was one of those Williamsons, A, we're going to end with a bang, and then start with not a bang.
Yeah, we should, just in case it comes back up later, because it probably will, because the whole idea of making a deal with the devil is that it will sort of like rear its ugly head in a way that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
But Neron's deal is, I'll give you the map to the back passages if you, Clark Kent, Superman, tell a lie. And Clark says, okay, sure, I agree to that. He takes the map and goes, he asked me to lie. I did. And walks off. And I thought, okay, that's funny, but I'm not so sure that that's going to actually work. I'm not sure if that's going to actually count for the deal.
There's fine print on all these deals. Clark clearly never seen an episode of The Twilight Zone. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Which then everything he says throughout, I'm like, is this a lie? You know?
Well, no, I think he thinks he's fooled Neron. He thinks that him lying about saying that he's going to do it counts as the lie, and that's it.
Right.
I will say as well, like Clark's like I hate magic attitude has been very strong this arc, and I was feeling it in this one, because it got to the point where Zatanna turns around and says, "Hey, magic's everything to me." They didn't just take like my superhero life. Like Zatanna's who I am all the time.
Yeah.
So the thing you hate is the thing I love, and kind of like choose them out for it.
Well, the thing that I am. So when you say you hate magic, you're effectively saying you hate me, and that hurts. So I like that aspect of it. I'm glad that Williamson took time to add that little piece in there.
I don't know if I do, just because I don't know if anything interesting comes from it. Like, I appreciate her calling him out on it, but I also don't really know if it's really if any of it matters. I don't know.
Well, no. But, I mean, if you're going to have him do this I hate magic through these last 2 issues, at least there's an emotional kind of resonance here from Zatanna. So I'm glad that they address it, you know, instead of her just being like, oh, he's just upset.
Anyway, so they go to the Dark Passages to get to the House of Heroes, which they mentioned, we've not seen this since Justice League 75. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was the end of Snyder's run. Jeez, taking me back now.
When we died.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
And Dr. Light's there, and like they end up fighting. This was a weird pull, actually. They end up fighting like someone who looks like when Batman and Superman fused together recently in World's Finest, which obviously for Superman this was years ago, because that's like set in the past. Right. But we just saw that recently in World's Finest. I was like, okay, why are we doing this? It felt like such a random pull to me. Maybe it's teasing something for later that he's going to do something with, but it just felt like, wait, what is this?
Well, I figured it's someone from the multiverse, right? Because of the House of Heroes and because of what Waller was doing, you know.
Oh, so yeah, probably, but I just don't care. Like, what is this? Why are we doing it? Like, why is this coming out of nowhere?
What's the name? Because they gave it a name too, I think.
They did. What was Confusion with a K? So he's been playing a lot of Mortal Kombat.
It's Confusion with a K, and it's the Superman bat. It's basically that from World's Finest, but on Earth 3. So when they got the power of the Yellow Lantern, because it's Earth 3 where everything's flipped, right? It created this, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess.
I assume this is setting up a story for. I mean, maybe this is seeding for something else. Like, maybe it's not for Williamson. Maybe Mark Waid's asked him to do this because he wants to do something with it in Justice League Unlimited. In which case, I'm sure it'll be fine when it comes back up there. It just felt so out of nowhere and weird here. Like, it just, like, it has nothing to do with what's going on in Absolute Power.
It made such a dent that I forgot that it was yellow powered until we just turned to the page and when he told me it was Confusion with a K. Yeah,
it feels so superfluous to anything going on right now that it just felt like oh, this is how we get some action scenes in the middle of this issue. Because ultimately it's just, you know, Superman and Zatanna come out via the shadows and the where the Fortress of Solitude once was, which is where Lois, Jimmy, Lex, and
Mercy,
Siobhan. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, Mercy's there too, but. So they do a whole thing where they come out of the shadows and Clark's like, I love magic, I found my wife, and that's basically it. They just all kind of agree that they're going to go back and find all the other heroes that need to be collected to go meet up with the Titans, and that's it. That's the issue.
Would he drop the I love magic? Oh, that's the lie. He still hates magic, you know. So but yes, I'm sure the Neron thing will show up again later, like you said. Those deals with the devil always, you know, for storyline reasons pop up at the worst time for our character. Yeah, so
this actually just felt really weird to me. It felt like it just wrapped up stuff far too quickly. Some of the things they threw in just felt really random, and then it just kind of ends with, oh, okay, we've completed our side quest, so we're on the way back to the main book now, and that's it. Obviously, Jamal Campbell's art's very good. You know, it's very, very pretty.
The Dark Pathways pages, especially, because they get very chaotic, right? With all the lines and, like, you know, like they look like broken pieces of it, and you could get lost. But because Campbell's such a great visual storyteller, you know, we're pretty easy to follow throughout, even without the speech bubbles. But yeah, Campbell's art's never been the reason that, you know, the book isn't connecting for me.
No, obviously not. Yeah, I think this one felt more like just a crappy tie-in issue to me, like a needless tie-in issue versus the first two parts, which were a little bit more interesting. But ultimately just didn't know how to end or like do anything interesting to feel like a conclusion. So, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of that. That said, though, there is one more page because it does the to be continued, and then it says, but wait, there's an after credits page. And then you go to the after credits, and it's just that classic page of Doomsday punching the wall, but everything's all fiery and hell-like because he's in hell.
Yeah.
So it's just teasing the next Superman story. That's all.
Like, and I know you're not that excited for Doomsday, and truthfully, I'm not either. However, the Doomsday and Hell stuff, I think, makes for great visuals. Because this at the bottom looks metal as hell.
To be fair, though, I'm not excited for Doomsday because I hate the idea of a Doomsday story. I'm not interested in a Joshua Williamson Doomsday story.
Yeah. If it was Dan Waters, it was Dan Waters that wrote that, when Martian Manhunter and Supergirl went down into hell.
Right? I can't remember. So that sounds right, but I don't remember.
Because I really liked that one shot. That special was really good to read. And we have Bloodwind, the Superman of Hell. Hopefully, you know. But yeah, you're right. We're gonna have Williamson doing all that, and I'm mostly positive on Williamson. But it's starting. The Williamson fatigue is starting to set in.
I don't know if you've been that positive. I feel like you've been mostly on board with the hate train for the last year. But
yes, but I still try to find the here with the I hate magic stuff and Zatanna. I think that Williamson still has occasional moments. You know, I've defended some Superman issues. Not so much a lot of the big event type stuff, though. That's mostly been the smaller things.
It's just really funny to me that, like, all of the writers they've got on most of the big books at DC right now, I'm actually mostly into. I guess Flash also kind of counts as an outlier too, but
you gave Flash a very good try.
Oh yeah. But what I'm saying is, though, it's just kind of funny that the writers of Batman and Superman are the only two that I really have a problem with. Because like, across the board, everything else is like, I mean, between what's already coming out and then all the stuff that's about to come out, everything's like super exciting by and large. Yeah. And then just at this very center, the core of DC's whole thing is the main Batman book and the main Superman book, and those are by far the least exciting things I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
But hey, I've got nothing else to say about this. It's just like, who cares? It's there's nothing interesting about it. Matt, what are you rating it?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Just right down the middle. Just mediocrity.
Perfectly mid.
Through and through. There you go. All right. Wonder Woman issue 13, legacy number 813, Tom King writing with Tony S. Daniel on the art. So this is wrapping up the little two-parter. I mean, there has been 3 issues tying into Absolute Power Wonder Woman, but the first one was separate, and then this one and the last one have been this two-parter with her and Damian as the team-up. And last one was very, very funny, very charming, and we got a lot out of it. And I think this one mostly carries that on quite nicely. The main thing being here that Damian is constantly annoyed and disgusted that Steve and Wonder Woman keep kissing instead of listening to him. And
I would agree if we were dealing with a younger Damian, but this is the Damian that's had romances now, right?
Oh, like but Matt, I don't think he's disgusted because he's too young and he thinks kissing's gross. I think he's just disgusted because he is laser focused and he sees this as a waste of time. This isn't like, oh, adults are kissing. Oh, that's disgusting. It's not that.
I feel that's how it. That's how it kind of comes off with some of the writing though. In this one, like when he just throws out a gross, I feel like there was better ways to handle Damian here.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought the attitude that was there, the sense of humor from the last
Yes.
issue, was still sprinkled in.
Yes, but the dynamics between Diana and Steve and then Damien are very funny. Like that still goes on with the, and especially in the backup, that gave me quite a chuckle.
Yeah, but we'll get to that separately.
Yeah.
Even though it's more tied to the main book than it normally is,
Yes.
it's still very separate in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this whole idea that Steve and Damien have never really met each other before, so Steve's kind of taken aback about how Damien acts and talks and all the rest of it. Yeah, all that was fun. This issue is probably not quite as exciting as last issue, bizarrely, because there's too much action. Because once this gets going and it's them sort of like doing the prison break and forming the plan and like, okay, Wonder Woman's going to be a decoy because she's the best fighter. Damien is the stealthy one, so he's going to be the spy who gets around and opens up the cells. And Steve, because he's the puny human with no good skills, is going to stay back and press the buttons at the computer to help open doors and whatnot.
He calls him the glorious button pusher. So you have the decoy, the spy, and the glorious button pusher. Yeah. And I do love that's Damien trying to sell who Steve is he is a federal agent, right? Like, he's not just a random dude. But the fact that Damien isn't that familiar with him, he's like, you get the easy job.
Yeah. I also there's a moment where when they get like one guard and they're asking for like or demanding answers to questions. Yeah. And the guard like answers kind of and says, "Oh, you're never going to do this, blah blah." Steve punches him, and Diana's like, "Steven," like, gives him a hard Steven, not a Steve, like a Steven, like she's disappointed.
Steven Trevor. He gets the full government name.
Oh, he gets the full name, right? So she's mad at him for doing the punch that was unnecessary, and then it cuts to a panel of Damien where he's like, "I'm starting to see what she sees in this guy."
This rube, yeah.
So Damien approved of that. If you're playing a video game where you're making choices and it comes up saying so and so approves of that decision, that popped up. Damien approved of that.
Well, and I love Steve's reasoning too. He's like, he could have lied. We don't have the lasso, but we do have a fist. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And the big money moment of the issue is when they're doing this plan and Diana's being the decoy. She kind of stands her ground. She's got this armor on that she obviously got in absolute power. She has none of her powers. And the guards know that. And the guards say, hey, you don't have your powers. You're not bulletproof. You're not going to be quick enough to actually like block her bullets with your gauntlets and whatnot. But she stands her ground anyway and holds up her arm, and the bullets hit off her arm. Although we find out that it actually takes a lot more out of her. She comes across as a badass, but she's actually she's clearly very hurt. Like her arm's like in pain because she's done this. But she basically says that that Hippolyta is now a god, and today that god's looking out for her. Which god's looking out for you? And that's when Detective Jimp dives in, which seems a bit random at first, but then you realize this is all the heroes getting out the cells that Damien's opening, so it's not actually that random. But because Chimp's the first one you see, you're like, wait, why is Detective Chimp here? What's happening?
Well, and a depowered, so he's not even Detective Chimp. He's just Chimp.
That's right. That's true. He's just Chimp.
he's mad.
He's still wearing the Sherlock Holmes hat. He's still in the tire. What
I'm saying is, this isn't a Chimp that looks for reason and logic. Yes. He's just there to rip arms off. That scene where she, where they go, that's no Wonder Woman. That's just a girl with a sword. I feel like that's the entire crux of this issue. Right. And then when she stands there and she deflects the bullets and she's still standing, and her posture, right, the sword's a little bit more down. Like, you can tell she's struggling through stuff, but she still gives that awesome speech of,
Do you know what's nice about it? And I like what you're pointing out there, that she's like standing, but the posture's not quite as confident as it normally is. It really contrasts with a lot of, because this is still Tom King's run. Like, Tom King's still writing these issues and they're kind of interspersed into his actual run that's going on. Yeah, I like that this really contrasts with some of those big, like, full page splashes earlier on in his run, where she is deflecting bullets and she's standing tall against an entire army. And here, like, there's a difference. You can see the difference here. She's not standing quite as proud. She's not in her usual colors, and it feels like she is like diminished. She's still fighting. She's still giving it everything she's got, but it's harder. It's tougher, and I don't think you can tell that difference.
Yeah, and because like in those earlier issues, she was unfazed by all that stuff, right? She was still very much in control, and here she's still going to stand anyways, having no control over the situation. And when Steve comes to her, he's just like, What were you thinking?" And she's like, "I'm still Wonder Woman," you know. So this whole thing is that also reinforces an absolute power. It's that the goodness is what makes them special, not just their powers. It's the fact that she's going to finish this mission and save all the heroes that are locked up, even if it does kill her. So, yeah, just that entire sequence that leads with her standing there, and it ends with "in which God protects you." That was a legitimate fist pump moment.
Yeah, and honestly, I might even like what comes right after, even a little bit more, which is, she falls like to the ground and Steve catches her and he's kind of saying, "Hey, like I hate being worried about you," because he mentioned this earlier on. Like he's used to her being invulnerable pretty much, so he doesn't have to worry about her getting hurt, and he hates that he has to worry about it now. And she points out that she always has to worry about it with him, so you just have to kind of put up with it. But as he's holding her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I took the bullets," and it's like, "No, you shouldn't have done that. Like you can't be doing this without your powers. You can." And like, there's a moment where she just sort of leans into him and says, I hate when men tell me what I can't do. But it doesn't, but not in an angry way. It's like a playful, no, I don't care. Like, men can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, that hurt, but you still can't tell me what to do. Yeah. It was, it
was sweet. It was like a sweet line that kind of fit into like the characters really well. So there's panels of various heroes punching like soldiers who they've just got out of their prison cells.
And also, I love the elongated man and Plastic Man. And elongated man's like, "Yeah, when you don't have your stretch powers, it kind of hurts when you punch. It doesn't hurt when I stretch." And Plastic Man's like, "Wait, it doesn't hurt when you stretch?" So adding some little bit character forces here.
I had to do a double take because I was like, "Wait, what's going on with the White Martian?" And then I realized, even Miss Martian is just in her White Martian form because she's lost all her abilities. I thought, okay, that's a nice touch actually, because obviously that's Jean next to her,
right? And who can't shapeshift, right? So he's in his true form. Yeah, she's in her true form. So again,
so that's all fun stuff. And then Damien draws a magic circle for Zatanna to pop through, and everyone leaves through the circle.
And nothing but shade for Connor Kent from Damien, because if you read what he says backwards, as he's summoning the circle, very, very funny.
I don't even know if I did, to be honest. What does it say?
Yeah. So he writes Anataz on there, and Connor's like, I don't get it, and so this is all written backwards. It says, "Well, wordplay can be tough for those geniuses who think an S stands for hope." There we go. I was just like, oh, Damien does not like his best friend's older brother or cousin, whatever that relationship is.
I mean, who can blame him? I mean, Connor Kent's he's the odd one out of the family, right? He
is now. He's, as much as I hate to admit it, he's kind of their Jason Todd now.
He is their Jason Todd. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I can admit this. I can admit this though. It's
he's the Jason Todd of the super family. And just like Jason Todd, he was gone for ages, and we were all saying, "Who is that? Who is Connor Kent? I don't know." Steve and Diana smooch a bit more, and Damien's just like annoyed because they're not following. So that was the main story. I will say before we move on, I do think Tony Daniel's art is only okay here. It feels a little bit in the rush side to me.
Some of the stuff, but then I think a lot of the hero pages look pretty good. But there's a couple little things here. Like Zatanna, I don't think looks as good as she could have. But I do think the action early on, I think, is pretty well done.
I just even just looks the characters who are in it, like Diana and Steve and stuff. I think there's a lot of times where I was feeling like it's not quite as tight as Tony Daniel's art can be, and I was just wondering if he's rushing things a bit because this has to, you can't really delay this or delay anything related to absolute power. The whole thing falls apart. So yeah, I mean, it's just you have to just kind of put up with it. But yeah, I would put it as just kind of okay house style for the most part. So. The backup in this one's interesting because obviously we normally have these backups by King, and it's usually Bell and Ortega on the art. We have a different artist here. It's Carrie Randolph on this one. And I was a little confused at first when I started reading this because effectively it's Damien telling Lizzie, right? Or Trinity, how he and her mother, Wonder Woman, first went on a mission together, right? And it starts off with them standing in front of the Fortress of Solitude, and she's carrying. And I didn't notice it was Boomerang at first, right? It became clear the next page what was going on here. But what this story effectively becomes, it's Damian telling her what happened last issue, but Damian is cooking the books a little bit and like changed all the dialogue, and like suddenly Diana is like, oh, Damian, you're so smart. I've learned so much working with you. And Damian tries to like sound like he's being humble. He's like, oh yeah, but Captain Boomerang gave up the location when we dangled him above the alligators. And Diana said, oh, Damian, this is, like, you're such a genius. And Damian's like, oh no, if anything, this is our victory. I mean, I believe it was my methods that worked in the end, but I could be misremembering it.
and just the dialogue that's coming from Boomerang just does not match.
Oh yeah,
he's like, I confess, you have bested me with your incredible teamwork. The prison is on Gamora Island, right? And it's just
at one point he also says, if only I'd known I was going to have to go against a Robin.
Yes.
I would have known that I shouldn't have fought back.
Yes.
And do you know what I think is really interesting about this? Now, admittedly, it's a backup, so I think they get away with it. But this backup is really only funny if you'd read the last issue, because when
last two, because
when you realize that it's just going through those exact same events, and even a little bit of this one, because you see a bit of the Steve stuff as well. Where instead of like being disgusted, Damian's got a little love hearts around his head saying, "Ah, how nice, true love."
It's so sweet.
I this was legitimately funny. There's even a moment after they fought all the soldiers where it's not mentioned. You just see Wonder Woman clapping in the background, like, "Oh my god, Damian, you're such a hero. How could I ever compete with you? You're the best." And it all builds up to the payoff, right? After he said that, like, basically Wonder Woman says to Damian, working with Batman's sons made me realize, like, what if I could be a mother? And Damian makes it sound like he inspired Diana to have a child. Like, his existence inspired Wonder Woman to want a kid. And Wonder Woman ends this story by saying, thank you, Damian. As if Damian's, like, changed her life.
She's tearing up. In the story that he tells, she has a tear as he looks up at her.
And then you go next page, and it's the final page of the story, and it's like adult Damian, and he finishes this story, and he says, so that's how you became you. And as I said to your mother at the time, you're welcome. And then there's just a silent panel of like John and Trinity just staring back at him, and she's like, I'm going to use the lasso. And John's like, that's a good idea. And she's like, not the gold one, the black one that will kill him.
Not that lasso. That's the line that got me good, where she's not that lasso, the black one. And she has it, she's looping it around on the last panel too.
Yeah, and John's like, Lizzie, I keep telling you can't kill him.
At least not while I'm on planet. Dad would get super peeved.
This idea that they know this story is absolute bullshit, and Damian's just like making himself look like he's the most important person in Lizzie's life.
So that was my first worries when I see early on in the issue that Steve and Diana are getting, very, very lovey-dovey. And I'm like, I hope this is not building to Trinity being conceived during Absolute Power when Diana didn't have powers, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to this where Damian's going to tell Lizzie the story of, how she came to be. And it's all just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, for the record, I do not expect it to be a normal conception. I think it's it's going to be made of clay kind of thing, just like Diana, I suspect. But I wouldn't be mad if it turned out that Steve and her just have a kid. I think that would be okay.
No, not either. I was hoping this is not a thing where, she, like, we kind of get John being able to be born because of the time in between times, right? During whatever that event was where they came from.
Convergence. I know what you're talking about.
From Convergence and all that side of stuff, right?
I don't think this would be the same thing, though. It's just, she didn't have to happen to have powers for like a week, but like it's still in continuity. Right. It's still
Yeah. And so I was just hoping that's not that, because I want not a bigger story, something more fitting of Diana than just me and Steve, got all hot and heavy, and because I do feel like the end of King's run, right, will have a very fitting story of the decision to become a mother for Diana. So to cap it with Damien's story,
I think it's going to be a lot sooner before the end. I feel like I saw on Twitter them teasing that issue 14 is going to be like part of like the start of the story of like that choice. Oh. So. Oh, okay. Well, we're getting there sooner than I thought. Yeah, I think we're getting there sooner than that. Yeah. Shoot. Well, okay. Well, it's coming. Someone's coming. Yeah. Right. Jeez. Low hanging fruit. But with Damien telling the story the way that he was doing it, and the way she's, her and John both know this is utter BS. That was a nice capper and put me at ease for the rest of it. But yeah, these last two issues of Wonder Woman for tie-ins that are diverting us from the main story that we've been enjoying so much. These are up there, I think, as very, very fitting Tom King Wonder Woman issues, even if they have the absolute power, thing at the top. I still think they fit in that general scheme. Yeah, they're absolutely not as good as the rest of the main issues, right? Mm-hmm. They're just not, and they probably never could be. But despite being tie-ins, they still have little things that feel like it's referencing thematically what's going on in the main story, and then the backups are still going as well. And this backup directly has both a tie-in to the tie-in issue and also to just the ongoing like saga of like the Trinity of the future and how they're all like, a family and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting though that this and Superman kind of did a similar thing, just flipped, where the first Wonder Woman tie-in issue was pretty rough. Like it was just kind of this pointless fight issue. But then we got two good tie-in issues. And with Superman, I kind of liked the first two tie-in issues, and then the third one kind of sucked. It's just kind of funny that Wonder Woman did the opposite, where it started off with a rough one, then we get a great two-parter out of it. At least great by tie-in standards at the very least. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I had a good time. Art here for this backup. Carrie Randolph. Yeah. Right? No. Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah, Carrie Randolph. Yeah. Okay. Which it's all right. I don't necessarily like. I think Damien looks right. I think Diana's face looks a little bit gaunt for my taste, but minor quibble. I mean, it's just weird though because I'm so used to Belen Ortega. I don't know if she's just done now doing the backup art, or if it's just one issue off, or what. I don't know. Well, because I saw Carrie Randolph still doing backups in the Solicits this month. Oh, really? So she's just a new backup artist then? Yeah, so maybe. But Ortega's just using this time to get ahead, for more. Because I definitely feel like the storybook kind of style that Ortega brings fits this a little bit better than the Randolph. Like, again, the Randolph stuff wasn't terrible by any means, but I just don't know if it has the same vibe. Yeah, I definitely like the Ortega art more for the backup, but I mean, if it switched over because Ortega's off to do another book, then, so be it. But worth mentioning all the same. So, pretty solid tie-in issue, both the main story and backup. The backup especially, as I realized what it was, because at first there was a bit of confusion, and then it was like, wait, this is just telling that. Oh, I get the joke. And then when you get to the end, and you realize that the other characters that are here in the story are not fooled at all. In fact, not only are they fooled, it clearly suggests that they're used to Damien making himself look like he's the best at everything, and she's ready to kill him. Like, that is funny. So, good times. What are you giving Wonder Woman, Matt? I'm going to give it a 8. Yeah, I am going to go 7.5, just because I don't think that the main story is quite as consistently funny as last time, and I don't think I like the art as much in either story compared to last time. But I mean, still good, like still a really good tie-in issue and a really funny backup. So yeah, not disappointed by any means. All right, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue 31. Mark Waid writing with Adrián Gutiérrez on the art. So, this is an Eclipso story. It is an arc. It's not a one-shot. I mean, it was obvious because it said part 1 in the title page. And it's a bit of a Justice League story entirely. It's almost like he's getting a bit of practice in for his Justice League Unlimited book here. Yeah. And the art here is Gutierrez, who did Blue Beetle. Really? So I was very excited to see
because the art was a high point on that book.
Yeah, I like the art. Certainly, I think some characters look better than others. I think I like his Superman. I like that big, thick lined Superman logo on Superman's chest and the shading on his body. That's kind of cool. So the story starts with the Justice League on the Watchtower, watching an eclipse and being like, "Oh, this is amazing," but that activates Dinah, Oliver, and Hal all turn into Eclipso soldiers. And it cuts back 24 hours earlier. The Justice League are helping build a solar-powered city in the desert with Bruce Gordon, which is a weird... It's a weird name, because I just immediately think of Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon.
Flash. Oh, that is right, yeah. Oops.
Yeah, not Flash.
That's way too hard.
What Flash are you thinking of?
I was thinking of Flash Gordon.
Oh, Flash Gordon. I was
super pulpy. Dr. Bruce Gordon is a very pulpy name.
No, I was thinking of other DC things. I was like, oh, that's like two Batman characters smushed together for some reason.
Yeah. So Bruce Gordon is the traditional holder of the Eclipso Diamond. So as soon as I saw that pop up, I was like, oh, Waid's doing Waid things. So that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't remember his name, but I didn't mean to suggest for a second that I thought this was an original character. As soon as they mentioned him, I'm like, oh, this is just an old character that Waid's using. But yeah, basically Eclipso tricks him because there's like a sort of duplicate diamond that traps or switch, or basically turns Dr. Gordon into an Eclipso, and it frees Eclipso from the black diamond, which is in the Watchtower. And this all happens over the course of like him. Basically, he's getting frustrated because they're only at 92% efficiency for this city that they've built, and he's like, I must get to 100. And I'm like, 92 sounds pretty good. Like 92 is a pretty good rate. Yeah,
but he wants to get 100%, right? Because it's a solar city project that's going to power. It's going to change the way they do, energy and stuff. So, but yeah. So we get Eclipso showing up. I got a little confused with the switch, but once it gets explained later in the book, because I was like, that definitely what he picked up was not a diamond.
No, in the moment, I don't think it's meant to be completely understandable. Like, you have to get the explanation later. But basically, he picks up this thing and tries to use it, and it cuts to the black diamond, and you just see like probably some of my favorite art in the issue. Yes, is it's like the camera, as it were, is like going in closer to the diamond. And like Eclipso has got his head down, and then he sort of picks up his head, and his eyes like light up. So it's a very good sort of like, oh shit, just got real kind of moment. But no, I mean honestly, like probably some of the fun of this issue is mostly just Waid having all these Justice League characters and the artist drawing Eclipso, all these different people. I mean, the Atom shows up, but he's Eclipso possessed. What's the correct term here? What do you call someone who's Eclipso taking over? It's
essentially possessed because you're under the influence of Eclipso at that point.
They're eclipsed. They're eclipsed by Eclipso.
They're eclipsed. Yeah, there we go.
I thought of a word. So Red Tornado is kind of a key here to try and stop. Bunch of fighting on the Watchtower. Elongated Man gets involved. A whole bunch of things going on. Batman and Superman are like, hey, what did we do the last time we fought an evil version of Hal? And it's like, well, we used the Green Lantern ring to fuse together into that being, remember? Okay, well, there was a lot of magic involved there, and we can't really just do that. So what are we doing now? So this all builds up. The Dr. Gordon, who's is eclipsed down on the ground, is basically building a giant cannon, which he then sets off as a great full page. Well, it's a big long vertical panel down one side of a page of this cannon firing into the sky and blowing up the Watchtower in this big full page spread. Very Death Star, blow up kind of image. So that's fun. Yeah, it's mostly action. It's mostly really fun to look at. I liked it feeling like the Justice League are caught off guard. It was very well paced. Sometimes, because World's Finest, the biggest problem I sometimes have with this book, which I generally quite enjoy, is that sometimes when Waid does an issue that's mostly action, it does just feel like a bit of fluff because it is just action. But I mostly like this because it was kind of like the villain striking right away. They're all caught off guard. They're struggling to find their footing. And the issue ends with Red Tornado's able to teleport out at the last possible second before it blows up, and he's on the steps of a building, and he's like, "Damn it, we need help, please!" And then the reveal is where he's went at the end. He's went to the Justice Society. So the final page is a full page spread of Alan, Jay, Wildcat, Hawkman, Sandman, Dr. Fate, Dr. Midnight. So cool. And then it says, next time Justice in trouble, make it a double. We're getting double Justice.
Yeah. I love how bulky he makes all of the JSA look as well. Because it makes them seem larger than life.
Yeah.
So,
except Alan. I'd say Alan looks kind of sleek, but everyone else looks kind of bulky. Especially Wildcat. Wildcat looks like he's ready to do like a weightlifting competition.
He looks like he's been hitting the venom just a bit. But I feel like Gutierrez does this a lot with like in Blue Beetle, where he'll to draw attention to things or to make things seem bigger or smaller, or whatever. He would play with proportions. So here when you get to that page, especially like you said, Wildcat, because he's in the foreground. They seem like larger than life. So, a lot of fun. Again, I'm always a sucker for an Eclipso story, especially when it plays out like this.
I also wonder as well, given that I joked at the start that Waid maybe is doing this arc because he's kind of like almost teeing up what he's going to do in Justice League Unlimited, which I think is set present day. But this idea that he's going to maybe like reference back to some stuff. I wonder, since we're about to get a new GSA book, I do wonder if he's also maybe going to put in a few things here that Lemire wants set up, that maybe Lemire said, hey, I'm going to do this, can you like make a reference? I wonder if this little arc is meant to kind of, just be a little lead-in to both of those books. Spiritually, maybe not directly in plot, but... No,
but kind of like a bridge there, a bit adding a little more context to things.
Maybe at least getting us all in the mood for both books that are about to start, so... it is quite pretty. I will say, obviously, when I started it, and it wasn't more... None of it was more last time, I don't think, but the disappointment faded quite quickly because I wasn't really as familiar with this artist, but most of it looked great. Like Batman and Robin looked very good. It seems like it's the same colorist that it was before because everything's matching there in terms of the vivid colors and whatnot. There's that Silver Age feel that it has. So quick read, very nice read. The ending got me excited for next issue, so I can't really complain.
And like again, like you were talking about the colorist, when stuff blows up and Gordon gets eclipsed by Eclipso, just that whole page of the transformation, the way that Gutierrez handles it with the and then the colorist playing off all the fire and the yellows and the reds and everything, because when you think of Eclipso, you think of the cooler colors, the purples, the blues, and all of that type of stuff. So to see the opposite, it made Eclipso seem scary. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff in this one.
Yeah, what are you rating World's Finest 31?
I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Yeah, this cat sounds... I'll probably go straight 8, I think. I did like this. I think it really felt like it put me in the mood for what's coming next. I think the JSA were that extra ingredient that just was maybe slightly missing before, where I was like, okay, this is fun, the action's good, I like an Eclipso story. But it was like the JSA at the end that made me go, oh, okay, all right, now I get the excitement, now I get like what this is and like what we're, what the spiciness of it is. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Dark Knights of Steel, Allwinter, issue 3, Jay Kristoff writing with Tirso Cons on the art. The surprise of the summer, amusingly given that it's all like a wintry book, but it's still like it came out in the summer to start with. So, this was good again. I thought this really sets up the Slade reluctantly taking this kid on the journey, who we do find out definitively is named Alec in this issue.
And talks with the Green.
And talks with the Green,
we get confirmation from him.
Yeah, it brings up the Green first, and then later on we actually hear the name Alec, and it's like, okay, we were right. The first most obvious guess was the right one, but that's not disappointing because it makes sense.
Yeah, and all the story stuff in there too, with just the fact that he's a kid, and we know Slade's relationship with children and the responsibilities in there.
What are you talking about? He's a great father.
Yeah, I mean he's okay. He calls one daughter a mistake. So so just that dynamic here, and just that there's it starts with him running in. It's all in full color to denote that it's the past, right before this Allwinter sunk in.
Yeah,
and he's running in.
There's a lot of flashback at the start. Yeah,
Yeah, to talk to Adeline, right? And then it cuts to her grave, and a lot of kind of quiet because it's not exactly silent, right? Um, and when he finally does talk with Alec, there's a lot of good stuff here, a lot of fun dynamics at
Well,
play.
notably, he goes to walk away into the snow,
Hmm.
and he almost like leaves, and then he just sort of stops and says, you know, shit, he
Hmm.
can't do it. He has to come back and offer his hand. And Alex like, wait, why should I go with
Hmm.
you? You know, like why do you want to do like take me to where we were going for her? You just got her killed. And he's
Hmm.
like, look, if I leave you here, you're dead, and I've got enough blood in my hands. So let's go. And
Hmm.
there's some great art here as they're traveling on horseback. It feels like we're doing kind of a almost a Last of Us style trek across the
Hmm.
post-apocalypse to like hopefully save the world with this
Yeah.
kid. And it actually throws a swerve at me because there's this great
Yeah.
page where they're going across this bridge, right? And again, everything's covered
Yeah.
in snow, but it's this big
It's
wooden bridge.
frozen. Yeah.
Yeah, over the course of this like this ravine or whatever it is, and they're fighting, right? Because he's asking the kid like you know what they're going to the city for, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to save the world," and he tells him about the green. And he's like, "Wait,
Hmm.
you hear voices from something in your head, and that's why we're traveling. This is a bunch of bullshit." I mean, I'm
Hmm.
still going to take you because like I promised I would, but like, I don't believe in any of this crap. And then out of nowhere, there's a full page spread where just a sort of shadowy black kind of blur is clearly landed on the bridge, which completely like destroys it and is going down with all these speed lines. And I was looking at this page before I turned it to the next one. I went,
Hmm.
the only thing I can kind of make out here is that almost looks like bat ears I'm seeing
Yep.
on this figure. And sure enough, right, next couple of pages, it turns out to be Batman. It turns out to be Bruce Wayne from Dark Knights of Steel.
Hmm.
And we get like this kind of, you know, like crossing over, even though it's obviously set in the same world, it really establishes here to have I mean, obviously Slade fights him at first, and they have a bit of punching back and forwards and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. Slade gets the ever loving shit kicked out of him.
Well, yeah, because
Uh,
Bruce in this planet or this world
is
has Kryptonian powers.
he's half Kryptonian, yeah.
Yeah, he blasts him with heat vision, and that's the end of it. Uh, well, that's not the end of it. The end of it's actually
No.
Alec coming in and stopping it with his powers. But
Hmm.
um, what's so interesting about this though, after the fight calms down and Alex, you know, comes in and like makes everything go green and makes
Hmm.
them stop fighting, and it actually, and I love that it restores color to them as well for a page.
Yeah.
Just for a couple of pages. It fades away afterwards though, so like 4 pages later, it's back to being black and white. Aside from Alec, but for those
Hmm.
couple of pages right after he's done that, there's a bit of blue in the background. Slade, you can see a little bit of the orange in his outfit, and you know some color in their cheeks and whatnot. That's a really nice touch in the coloring, given the
Yeah.
gimmick they're playing with here. But what this gets to that's interesting is that Bruce Wayne has never heard of this place. That's this Allwinter like realm that's in, like on
Hmm.
the planet. Likewise, the Kingdom of El is something that Slade has never heard of. So these
Yeah.
are very separate places in this world that do
Hmm.
not intermingle.
Yeah.
You know, this
Even
is
even
seeming.
before the Allwinter, it seems,
Yeah,
right? Because
I,
the place is called Yarnlun.
I mean,
Uh
seemingly, you know, Bruce is here because he's flying around, so he's went
huh.
much further than anyone else has. It wouldn't surprise me if we find out, like, maybe, like, oh, there was a time when they, like, these, like,
Hmm.
you know, maybe a group of people split up and went to different places, and that's how,
Hmm.
you know, so maybe once upon a time they did know of each other, but that was like thousands of years ago or something like
Yeah.
that. But clearly, no one seems to know about these two places
Yeah,
between
because
them.
Bruce hasn't even heard of Vandal, right? Like he's pretty
Oh,
much the warlord of the area.
excuse me, Matt.
Yes.
Vandar.
Vandar, yeah. Vandar Ag. Yes. But
Yes.
so yeah, and he's while not royalty, he's close with the royalty, right? Being the bastard son. So you would think he would have known, getting an education and all this type of stuff. So that added a bit to the mystery of what's going on here.
Yeah, it definitely makes this a bit intriguing. And then it kind of, you know, Batman joins the party. He's like, hey, can I
Hmm.
travel with you? You know, the kid's like, yeah, you should come with us. And so we end up with this, you know, like them leaving together and Batman saying, hey, can you tell me about this land? And Slade's like, it's a bit of a long story. He's like, yeah, but do we have a long journey ahead of us? And he's like,
Hmm.
aye, we do. And, you know, he grabs his hand. So,
Hmm.
you know, it starts off, you know, ends off with them leaving, and presumably he's going to tell them the story of this land. And behind though, where Alec had his little like, green explosion to stop the fight, we see that a little vine has sprouted and life is maybe coming back to the land a little bit.
Yeah, so there's that. So they do this little sequence with these two squirrels, and Bruce lands on one of them, and it dies, right? And
Yeah.
the other one that it's with, and they have this acorn, and also the horse that Slade was on died, and Slade's like, Slade kind of mourns the horse, like I really like that horse. And so as they're walking away and the green starts sprouting, right? Also, there's this horse that's back to life as well. At least that's how I took that.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably right. It never even occurred to me that was just his horse that came back. I just assumed the horse had wandered into shot.
Yeah. So, because I don't know how many other horses would be in this area, right? It looks pretty barren.
Oh, true. No, that's quite true.
So, this thing of explosion that he has also seems to bring about life. So this is how Alec's going to save the world, right? Who knows?
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, yeah, he's going to have the green resuscitate everything, basically. That's absolutely what's going to happen. So, no, I like this idea of adding someone. I did not expect one of the characters from the main book to show up, never mind become the third member of the party. If you're comparing this to like a Dungeons and Dragons style party, like an adventuring group, that this is, like, okay, Batman's here now. Like we've got this oddball team of Batman with Superman powers, with Deathstroke and
Viking Deathstroke and a kid
version of Swamp Thing. Yeah. Kind of nuts, kind of a weird combination, and it's clicking. The art is gorgeous. When it's black and white, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous when it kind of like has the color come into it for a little bit because Alex used these powers. All of that stuff is really, really well done. And while I enjoyed the main book, just like Deceased Unkillables, it's amazing to me how much this is like just hitting and being better than the main book was.
Yeah. It's because it's playing in the world, but it's not trying too hard, right? And that's kind of what Unkillables did. It was like, this is occurring in the world of Deceased, but we're telling its own story.
I think it helps as it's focused. It's focused on like a small group of characters, whereas by its nature, Dark Knights of Steel had to like set up all the different like the different like families and like one of the big parts of that book, and this is true of a lot of Elseworlds, is like just like, okay, what is X character like on this world? So we have to introduce this world's version of Harley, then this world's version of Amanda Waller, then this world's version of so and so. Whereas with this, we had to do it with Deathstroke and this Alec Holland, but other than that, it's been pretty much just like people who are connected to them. And it's very focused on one singular thing, which is this world is barren, and this kid might be able to save it. And it's very focused in a way that I think the main book wasn't, and I think it's really hitting for me. And I think the art's better as well, is another thing that's also working for me. But even just in a story perspective, I think the focus is just really, really clicking. So main story is very good. Very, very surprised by this. I'm almost sad it's only 6 issues, but that does mean that it won't drag on for too long and we can get to whatever the conclusion is. And who knows how this will affect a possible, Dark Knights of Steel sequel when that comes rolling around. Yeah. So, very interesting. Very interesting. And then the backup as well with Federici art, just to, put a cherry on top of the whole...
Put a stamp on things.
Yeah, basically it's the story of the Kents being begged by Atlanta as she's dying for them to look after Arthur, let him grow up and have a childhood before he finds out what he is, before he has to go back and like solve all the problems in Atlantis and the underwater civilizations.
It's the story of Superman told through Aquaman. I love it.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
And like the Kents are like, we thought we were going to die in a battlefield, but we're kind of admitting right now that we love each other and that we probably could look after a kid. So they basically just run off to Gotham. They live humble lives, even though they were just given a lot of money by Atlanta, because she had like a couple of gold like medallions that are all worth like. The way she phrases it is that one of these medallions could like pay for a whole city. So probably they're set for life with these things. So the story kind of boils up to the point where basically the first big thing that sort of makes the Kents, Jonathan in particular, he's reminded that Arthur's different because they're taking him through the food market, and Arthur gets upset because he can hear the lobsters crying in pain that are on like a stall, and he basically uses his like talking to fish powers to command the lobsters to fight back. And Jonathan just throws some money at the guy. He's like, "Sorry, here, just take all this money. Bye."
There's that, and then him in the bath saying that the water's too wet, and I'm like, what does that mean? So they have to go. They end up going to the market. The reason they're there is to buy salt.
Yeah, because they like salt water. Yeah,
because he needs the salt water, and so the guy's even like, who needs that much salt? Have you ever tried pepper? Like, there's ways to do this. So I thought that was some bit of fun.
I think what I like about this moment at the end with the lobsters is that this is very reminiscent of a Superman growing up scene. It's just, obviously, Superman never talked to fish or crabs.
Right.
But it's very much like Superman's X-ray vision just kicked in or something, and Jonathan has to be like, hey, don't use that in public. You know, it's very much that kind of moment of a power emerging. So it's fun. It's a fun play on things. And I'm curious to see again. Because, I mean, Taylor's writing the backup, so I do think that, at the very least, I expect Aquaman grown up is probably going to be important in the sequel of some kind.
Yeah, and we also saw that Waller saw them escape, right?
Yeah,
or leave. That because Jonathan and Martha are both like, well, who knows who survived this battle, right? We could easily just disappear. But Waller, you know, so I'm sure that'll rear its head by the end as well.
Yeah, possibly in the backup story itself, but if not, then yeah, whatever sequel story we get next.
Yeah.
So, no, cool. Yeah, I mean, as someone who liked Darkness of Steel, but was not necessarily like gasping for any more after it was finished, like it's amazing to me just how much I'm into this series. So, yeah, credit where credit is due.
I mean, they had me at Viking Deathstroke, and now they're getting me with Super Aquaman. So like, this is great.
Yeah, Aquaken, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, like it's not just the main story either. The backup is also like doing it for me. So really cool. What are you giving Allwinter issue 3?
I'm gonna give this one a 9.
Oofed. Oh. I don't think I can quite stretch to the 9. I'm going to go 8.5. I don't think I can quite stretch to the 9, but it's very, very good, and I'm digging it. It's definitely the thing that I've liked the most so far out of what we've spoken about, right? So, but thinking about it, we've kind of went up progressively in the order we've been doing them. I think about it. But anyway, all right. What is next here? Jenny Sparks, issue 2. Tom King writing and Jeff Spokes on the R. So the first issue was very tightly done and how it kind of built up to this hostage situation in the pub, and this issue, of course, continues that story as its main plot. But the start of the issue sets up a sort of B plot, which is taking place in 2001. And this is a bit weird for me because it's like, you know, 9/11 is like, the first thing we see is 9/11, right? We see a page showing that, and there's references throughout, and whenever we have one of these flashbacks to Bush being president and like what was going on in the world at the time. But we also have, like, you know, in the present day story, Superman talking to Jenny Sparks, and I'm like, it feels really weird to me to just like have all that just accurately have happened in the DC universe. I don't know, it feels weird.
I like that the DC universe exists in its own, and like, yes, they can use real world events for certain things, but they're not Marvel that way, right? Where Marvel's very much set in the real world, right? And that the Marvel version of New York is it's kind of its own thing, but it's still New York. Whereas, you know, DC has Metropolis and Gotham and it's Central and Keystone cities. So you can separate a bit. So when you bring in real world events to it, it feels weird.
I mean, I suppose it comes down to like a time thing, because none of us bat an eye when they say that, oh, the JSA were involved in World War II or something like that. Like, we don't even think about it. It's like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, of course World War II happened. But even though it's been 20 plus years since 9/11, it still, because it's just happened in our lifetimes, it just feels weird to me to have it just be brought up like it happened. I guess part of the problem with it is that it raises this weird question of like, well, in the DC version of 9/11, did Superman just fly and save everyone that was like at the top of the tower? Because why wouldn't he?
Yeah, right.
You know, that's a really weird question that just is murky and you don't really want to ask it.
Right. And that's what I mean by it feeling weird, right? And that's
Yeah.
why there's a bit of a separation between the Earth of the DCU and real world, you know, because this is a world with superheroes.
I mean,
You know,
unless
so
we're suggesting that Jenny was in like our world and then somehow went to the DCU later on, which is possible.
there are things that play here that might suggest that, just because she is the spirit of the 20th century, and now she's around in like 2024,
Yeah.
right? So maybe there was some shifting of things, and yeah.
Well, I mean, the next bit of the flashback does kind of not explain why necessarily,
Yeah.
but it makes it clear that she is dead. It makes it also clear that she is the great granddaughter of Darwin, which okay, fair enough. But then she wakes up in her coffin and she resurrects. She snaps her fingers to teleport out via spark as she does. And we hear her complain that they buried her in this really like pretty princess dress, which is totally not her. And this guy that she's talking to mentions, oh, that fire at the cathedral, do you think this is like what happened in New York? And she's like, what happened in New York? So it's this idea that she died in 1999 at the end of the century, right? Because she's a century baby. But then she came back after 9/11 and is finding out that the world's gone to shit right after she left, pretty much. So yeah, we come back to that flashback timeline a couple times throughout the issue.
Now, is that fire caused by her? Is that what we're supposed to? Her getting out of her coffin? Because that's the abbey where she was buried.
Yeah. I think that's the implication. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was following that.
And if it isn't, if they do say later on that someone actually did do a terrorist act here, then fair enough. But I
gotcha.
I don't suspect that she would have wanted to do that, like intentionally.
No, I just think maybe it happened by accident, right? Like she did her whole, get out with electricity, but because of that, it burned the coffin, which then started a fire.
Yeah. So when we go back to the present day stuff, it does start a little bit before the end of last issue, in the sense that Superman talks to her and says, hey, do the hostage negotiation stuff, keep him calm. We're basically waiting for Wally to get back from another world because we need speed to try and get in and out as quickly as possible to avoid him having any more casualties. And the reason why I say that is because the end of last issue was her walking up to the negotiations. So this is set a little bit before that. She also mentions here that she kissed Clark in college, which actually, I guess that proves she was in the DC universe before 9/11, because that'd have been before that.
When Clark was in college, so we have to go off of whenever that was too. Because she also, she goes, Snog while he was on the rebound from a mermaid, right? So that's playing with the Lori Lamaras type stuff. So again, it's overthinking.
Maybe we're just overthinking it. It's not that important, but
it's not that important. But it feels like she was definitely around when Clark was in college, whenever that was.
I'm assuming that's before she died, though. But that would mean that Clark's been out of college for over 24 years. So, well, then again, actually, that's not true though, because the entirety of the New 52, for example, took place over 1 year. So, and that was 5 years of real time. So who knows how time is working here?
Hyper time. I always just chalk things up to hyper time.
But that's the weird thing then, though. If you're doing flashbacks to just after 9/11 and then you're saying this is present day, has it been 24 years in the DCU since then? I don't know. It's weird.
Right. I know. And that's where throwing something like that for just a joke, you're kind of like, okay, well, now I'm thinking about, young Clark Kent and Jenny Sparks, and when exactly did this happen? Is this pre 9/11, post 9/11? What are we doing?
Now, don't get me wrong. I get that King has put 9/11 in here because he's going to use it in a serious way. He's going to use it and show how it affects Jenny, that the world's going to shit, and how that weighs on her. And I'm sure there's going to be some more thematic points to it as the book goes on. And I suspect that the reason why he has to use 9/11, because as much as he could come up with a DC universe thing that happened that she could be feeling something for, it's never going to hit as hard as the real thing that actually just happened in the context of this.
Well, yeah, and from my understanding of the Authority and Jenny Sparks and all that with Warren Ellis and Stormwatch, the Authority, kind of the whole Wildstorm universe, that it was meant to be kind of a real world response, right? So that's why Apollo and Midnighter are kind of a real world version of Batman and Superman, so it was very much supposed to be echoing closer to a real world. So then,
So
here,
so it also fits into where Jenny Sparks comes from, is to use real
right,
world events rather than just fake, because it could have very easily
exactly.
have been, oh, a crisis happened after she died, and that's what she's
Right.
reacting to. But
Well,
no,
and then we have
it's the real thing that we actually live through.
exactly, and then it's just like that's kind of what in the pages of The Outsiders, right? That's what Jenny Crisis represents. Is that new century baby, and that has lived through these different crises, not just in DC, but for what that means in the real world as well. Which, and then when we'll talk about Planetary, I'm sure this all plays into kind of all of that. So I think King's doing a good job at kind of stratifying things a bit. Well, not it doesn't get in the way of this story in the bar like at all.
No,
Right?
I mean,
once that kicks off, the book really starts to cook.
yeah, the hostage situation is just interesting on its own without all this extra stuff that we're talking about now. Because once we get in there, the hostages know they're hostages and they're terrified of Captain Atom. And there's the one guy who I think was like the sleazy kind of producer dude who says,
Yes.
I'm going for a drink, and he goes up to the bar when it's just Captain Atom sitting there talking to the barman, and he just zaps him and he like disappears and disintegrates, and the rest of them all just freak out because basically they were debating before, surely he won't kill us, he's still a superhero, right? Like you don't just lose that. But then sure enough, like he disintegrates this guy in front of them and they all just get shocked.
Yeah, he Doc Manhattan's him, right?
Yeah, pretty
Just
much,
like,
yeah.
And
one of the things here about the art is that all of these panels have detailed backgrounds of the bar set around them, but when he does this and we get the reaction panel of the characters, the background goes away and it's just bright orange. It's like it's that classic sort of technique of just having everything fade away to sort of show that they're just in the moment like that. I like that. Just to clarify one thing, last issue we were trying to sort of identify who all these characters were.
Yeah.
There was the two ladies who I thought were maybe sisters. It does make it. Someone did say there was a hint in issue 1 that there were a couple, as in one of them's married, but they're having an affair with this woman.
Yeah.
Here, this kind of made it more clear. Yeah, like because there's a whole moment where they're holding hands and one mentions the husband and she's like, "Oh, you have to bring up, again, even now you're mentioning him." So, yeah, I thought that was a really good couple of pages to just sort of establish just how terrifying, again, Captain Atom is and how these regular people are actually shit scared of him because he can just snap his fingers and off they go. Very good. Now it gets back to a flashback where Jenny Sparks is hanging out in the debris of 9/11, I think is what they were going for here. Like the firefighters are just talking about what they were going to be doing this weekend or whatever, and now they're not because they're here, and she's just kind of like trespassing, and they notice her and say like, "Hey, you're not meant to be here. Like, what are you doing? Like, get out." It's restricted. So then you have her negotiations. We're back in the present day stuff, and there's a running thing here where she doesn't have a phone. She keeps having to ask the time from people, and they're just not like. What, you don't have a watch? No. Do you not have a phone? No. And she has to go and borrow a phone from a guy at a store to use her powers to get into the bar because she zaps her way in. So yeah, once we go back into the bar though, and like the therapist character who's sick, right? We found out he was dying last issue. He starts coughing up a storm as he's trying to like berate Captain Atom for killing the guy, and he's like, "Hey, like you he didn't deserve that. That's not right." And he's like, "You're judging me?" And it gets kind of tense. And we get the panels of Jenny in the store using this guy's phone to zap herself into the bar. But what she does she actually phones the bar, and when the bartender picks up the phone, she zaps out of the phone. So I guess we're getting a better understanding of how her powers kind of work.
Yeah.
But there is this kind of teleportation aspect to it that's happening.
Well, it's almost like she's writing electricity lines, right?
Yes.
Like she's writing it through the phone. The one, her getting out of the coffin was a little bit weird, but it's almost like maybe she exploded herself out. I'm not too sure. This one made more sense. That's why she needed the phone. She was traveling the airwaves through electricity because now it's kind of ambient everywhere. Which I wonder how she did stuff back in the beginning of the 1900s, right? Where electricity wasn't as available.
Well, it was the thing. It just was, obviously it got more widespread as time went on.
Yeah.
But by the time she was like in her 20s, it would have started to be really common. So I think
That's
she probably,
true too.
probably. I just wonder, is it specifically like phone lines, or is it any electrical current she can travel through? I'm not sure, but interesting all the same. But she gets her way into the bars. This great full page spread as she's standing there across, looking at Captain Atom, and he's like, "Wait, aren't you dead? Didn't I kill you?" And she's like, "Didn't you have 5 hostages?" And he's like, sorry, no." And then the others like shout out that he killed the other guy. So
it's the way that he goes, "I do. No, I did. So I don't. Not anymore." That was a real good dark laugh.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning, like, so much of the pages in here are either like these horizontal panels, like at the last issue, or 9-panel grids, but everything's very straight and grid-like. But notably, there's these key moments where it'll go, more kind of like an angle or something. And it's usually because powers are being used, and it's the idea that realities, the rules of the panels start to break because the powers are being used, and that means that the rules of reality is not being adhered to. So it's a really simple thing that really works well. Captain Atom like fires a blast at her, which like fires right outside the building, goes into space basically. And she's like, "Oh shit!" And it like actually goes through her. She's got like steam coming out of her like midriff. So it becomes this debate though, because he wants to be a god, right? That was his whole thing. He wants people to admit that he's god. And she's arguing against him, and she's saying, "Hey, you killed a guy. Like all this religious bullshit. Like, who cares?" And basically, Captain Atom takes the old guy, the therapist, who's dying of cancer. He puts his hand on his shoulder, and he cures him, and says, "He'll now live for a long time. The cancer is gone. There, I just did a miracle. There it is." And then not only that, he then makes the guy he killed earlier reappear. Puff of smoke. And there he is. And the guy is just confused. And like, "Wait, what happened?" And he's like, "Wait, who's this? Who are you, Jenny?" Like, he doesn't say that, obviously, because he doesn't know her name. But and it's just like a comedy beat almost, where he's just kind of confused and still wants a drink. And he's just kind of like, "Wait, what just happened?" And Captain Atom just leans over and goes, "It was a miracle."
Yeah. Well, and he also sends Jenny away, right? Because she ends up turning into the puff of smoke.
Yeah. He does
right before. I'm trying to see. Is it before he brings him back?
No,
it's right after.
It's after he brings him back. I was just looking at the page again. I wasn't confused about that. He does send her away. I was just looking to confirm how he does it. But it definitely implies, because he says, "I said no," and then she disappears, which definitely implies that he did it to her. I was just double checking to see if it was something she did or something that he did.
That's what I was trying to figure out too. Yeah, I was trying to find that page.
But it's and then it's the guy just came back to life, is confused, and is like, "Yeah, I guess I'll have a drink." And it seems like Captain Atom's going to play nice with them now. Maybe he's realized that playing nice with them and giving them miracles is how they'll recognize him as a god, rather than being full Old Testament, like vengeful god. But and then the final page is actually back in the flashbacks, where it's Jenny Sparks listening to the radio talking about Bush and how it seemed like the world was starting to stabilize after the fall of the Soviet Union, but now after 9/11 it feels like all bets are off. Like, where are we going now? And she starts crying, and I think that was an interesting moment to end on, because she's such like a tough, like wisecracking character who never shows any emotion, that having her just break down in tears at the state of the world actually kind of hit hard. And maybe that's why you use 9/11, because it's a real thing. And having her break down, like, all the superhero shit doesn't phase her. She's just bored by them. She's annoyed by them. It doesn't phase her at all. But as soon as like this real subject comes up, she does get affected. She breaks down in tears and she can't handle it. And maybe that's why you use the real event. On top of just, it coming from the stories that do typically use real events, maybe that's the narrative reason for it. I think it works. I'm curious to see what he does with it, though. Like, right now, I don't know what he's going to do with all these flashbacks and why we're doing them. It's just a case of, like, putting her in that time and place, her discovering what the world's like after she came back to life, and, we'll see where the story takes it as it goes on. But I'm curious. Like, I was wondering at the start of this issue, is this hostage situation going to be the entire book? You know, are we going to be coming in and out of this bar for the entire 7 issues? Because it feels like it might be now.
I feel like we are. I feel it's one of those. It's a moment in time thing. And here at the end, where she's listening to the radio, and the second to last panel, it says, "I guess the only thing that's really clear here is that the end of history is not here. No, sir, we're still going strong as ever." And that's where she's, breaking down, right? And it's almost, I feel like that's her being like, she earned her rest, right? But because of machinations out of her control, she's back around.
Yeah.
And it's, because she is that spirit of the 20th century, and that we're just in an extended part of that now. We're not being able to turn to the next thing. And it's almost like she's exhausted.
We've not moved on, and that's why she's not allowed to rest. Yeah. Yeah, she's sort of already starting to cry even before it says that. Like, just talking about what's already came, and she starts to cry. It's almost like, her entire life, like she got to see the rise and fall of the Soviet Union and like all that tensions and whatever, and it was like, that's finally over. I'm finally done, and here we are. All this shit's kicking off.
Yeah, it's definitely that meme of I'm tired of living through unprecedented events. I'd like to live through a precedented event. And so that's what her entire. It seems like here is she's like, all right, why now? What's going on? I'm curious to see how that fits in with the story, because this is in the past, right? So it's like, does she develop that callus in the 20 plus years to where we meet her, right? Like,
no, because she had that when she woke up. Like when she was talking to that guy when she woke up, she still sounded like her.
Yeah,
I think that's just always who she was, but I think that's what makes it more important here, that she does break down like this at the end. Is that it feels like it must be really getting to her if she's showing this level of vulnerability. So yeah, the book loves the wide panels. Like there's so many of the pages of those wide panels where it's just, you get 5 to 6 panels just going horizontally across the way. There's the occasional 9-panel grid and whatnot, but that's a lot of the panels, and it does give this sense of sequential storytelling, because you'll get just the characters moving around in that space. The first issue did that really well. This one kind of continues that trend. So, no. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see more of the themes come together as we get more issues. But I do think this was a really solid second issue. It is intriguing me with what it's talking about and where it's going. The idea that you've got her struggling with still being alive, where she can't rest because she has to help people, but then you've got this other character who wants to be seen as God. When she's like, she's got the burden of a god, but he just wants the glory of being a god, and it's interesting. So I'm very fascinated. If I'm to compare it to issue 1, I do think issue 1 was such a strong like build to an ending. That issue 2 almost could never have been quite as excellent as it, but it's still pretty excellent. Like I still really like this by and large. Very captivating. So, all right, what are you rating Jenny Sparks?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
8.5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah. It's nigh on the 9, but it just I'm just not quite feeling a 9 this week, I guess. So, there we go. All right. Batman, the Long Halloween, the Last Halloween, issue 0. Now, what's funny though is that this wasn't originally called the Last Halloween. It was just the Long Halloween special, because I did not realize this until it was pointed out to me that this is a reprint of a book that came out in 2021. And what's funny is I went back and listened to my review of that, because you didn't read it for whatever reason. You didn't read it that time. I did though, and I talked about it. And I remember saying, hey, the end of this book clearly is them setting up for another series, another Long Halloween sequel. Sadly, though, Tim Sale was on that book, and I feel like the reason why it didn't happen for 3 years is because Tim Sale passed away. That seems to be what delayed it. And what they're doing now is they've got a different artist on every issue of this new 12-issue series, and it's going to be like, obviously I think Jeff Loeb probably had the story plotted out, if not some of the scripts written back then. And then, we come to here, and like it's like, oh, we'll still do the story, we'll still finish off that tale, but we'll have it with these different artists paying respects to Tim Sale, and that's how we're doing it. But so
I was gonna say there was an interview in the back where they talked with Jeff Loeb, and a lot of that he confirmed.
Okay, cool.
Was that he also waited because he wanted to be something that would, as he said, Tim Sale could sit on Pa Kent's porch and sit and enjoy and read. So he wanted it to be something that Tim would be proud of as well. And so he had to, get around his own issues with finishing a project without his co-creator, and think of ways to do this. So it was actually a really heartfelt, interview.
That's nice.
So
because when I read this a couple of years ago, when it first came out, I remember thinking it wasn't immediately as good necessarily as Long Halloween and Dark Victory, but it was nice to be in that world again. It was nice to have, this, like, it feels like they're teasing that Babs might become Batgirl in this, like, next one, in the same way that Robin, or Dick Grayson became Robin in Dark Victory. The third one will have Babs becoming Batgirl. She even dresses as Batgirl for Halloween before that's officially a thing.
I was going to say, is that, you're the bigger Batgirl guy. Is that usually a thing of her?
I don't think so. That seems like a thing just that they've done for that. It's cute though. I kind of like it.
No, I don't mind it because it fits in with the animated series version of things, right? Where she wanted to help out, but she couldn't, so she sneaks around as Barbara Gordon. That's how she earns her place. But so her showing up here in a Batgirl costume, I thought was a little bit weird, but it does fit the tone. Because she wanted to go trick-or-treating with Robin. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is mostly just a one-shot. There is maybe a couple of little things. It's like, hey, the Dents have got a secret, and that just kind of, I feel like introducing Babs, who's, in this story, Gordon's niece rather than daughter, although I think that ties into what they set up in one of the specials before Long Halloween, where Gordon adopted her. It was his niece that he adopted because her parents died or whatever. Yeah,
and that's how they also get around by his wife's named Barbara, but also his daughter's named Barbara. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's fair enough. But by and large, I don't think you need to read this to jump into issue 1 that's coming out next week. I think it's a solid one shot though, and if you like that world and you like the Harvey Dent and Gilda Dent stuff, and you like this version of Batman, I think it is worth reading. But honestly, it's up to you, Matt, how much you want to talk about this, because you read this for the first time, and
Yeah, no, there's I love a good Two-Face story, and it does feel like, this is a continuation of Long Halloween. I still need to read Dark Victory, so I might.
Oh, you need to read that. You have to read that.
Which I believe is why I did not read the when this came out in 2021.
Yeah, because last Halloween is basically the third in a trilogy, right?
Yes.
It's Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Last Halloween. You have to read Dark Victory.
So I think, because I'm working overtime tomorrow, I think I'll set aside time and read Dark Victory, because I do have it.
Yeah, you'll fly through it, because those Loeb Sale books are easy reads. And
quick.
Funnily enough, actually, the Penguin TV show started this week, and Sophia Capone is not Capone, Falcone, Capone, like Al Capone.
Good lord.
Yeah, well, it's because see in the Batman and the TV show, they pronounce Falcone.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Which is how I'd always done it until the Nolan stuff, where they called him Falcone.
No, I'd always said Falcone. So I said Capone there because I was trying to remember how they said it, but then I mixed it up with the one that I would actually say. That doesn't matter. Anyway, point is that Kristen Milioti plays her in that, and she's a big character in Long Halloween and Dark Victory, especially Dark Victory. So
so I did start Dark Victory knowing this was coming, and I've been, other things have taken precedence. So I did see the opening. I read, I think, what's essentially the first issue of Dark Victory, and she's at the funeral, or not the funeral, but at the gravesite and all this other stuff. She's a pretty big deal. So
I mean, I know it was maybe a bit of an ass to do it before next week, but I would highly recommend reading Dark Victory before. So
I will say, like, again, as a Two-Face guy, I love Two-Face. Having them bring that back around, because what makes a Long Halloween work is that dynamic between Batman, Gordon, and Dent, and it's that trinity of characters. And so to see him here, and all of them have been altered by the events of Long Halloween, and assuming Dark Victory as well, because I don't really know what the crux of that book is. Because is Two-Face big in Dark Victory?
Oh, he's in there, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But is he a main character, or is it just a
He's definitely a prominent character.
Okay.
I mean, once again, it's a murder mystery. It's, someone's
Okay.
killing people.
Gotcha.
But the murders are all related to people who Dent knew. So he's very
Okay.
much, like.
Okay. So then here, so this doing those, and we're getting a lot of good Two-Face stuff here. Like there's some art where there's a mirror, and you only see towards, let's say, the camera, well, the page, right? It's all Two-Face. It's that side of his face that's messed up, but behind him always is the mirror, and you see the Harvey Dent face. So it's always sitting there, almost like Harvey's his conscience, as he's going through things. So a lot of, it just showed how Sale and Loeb really work together effectively. A lot of Grundy, which also not I don't hate. I love Grundy, and him being friends with Two-Face here, I think, was made for some fun scenes. But this with Holiday Man's, or not Holiday Man, Calendar Man's Cole going around, that's some grade A creepy stuff that I hope we touch on more in the last Halloween. I was really big with all of that.
I don't know. I feel like the Calendar Man stuff was kind of wrapped up by the end, but I do like that the premise of this issue though is that Calendar Man is pissed that the holiday killer from Long Halloween kind of stole his gimmick, so he's going around and trying to like get vengeance for it.
And him having the 12 followers, he representing a month, and he needs a true Gemini, so he wants Dent because Dent represents May and all, and I just love all that stuff. So if we get something akin to that throughout the last Halloween, because I thought those real creepy vibes, those hit real well.
And
so
both Long Halloween and Dark Victory are murder mysteries. Like they both have a serial killer of some kind killing people off. I expect Last Halloween will have one too, because that's kind of what each of the books have been. So I expect someone will be killing people. So when I said we're kind of talking about this issue, what I meant by that is that I felt it was worth bringing up because it has been 3 years since this book came out. So even if we don't do a full conversation of it, you can go back and find me talking about it like from 2021. But it felt worth bringing up and just sort of like saying, hey, the important things to note at the end of this is that Harvey and Gilda are together, and he's not in prison anymore. At the end of this issue, they have left. They're on a boat in like the sewers or something, and they're free. So, just for going into this final book that starts next week, is Two-Face is free with his wife. Barbara Gordon has been established as being around and being a fan of Robin and Batman, and those are the things that seem like they're probably going to come up in this next series.
And there's a theme of legacy here too, right? So I'm wondering how much that's going to play in, especially if the shadow of Tim Sale's, into this. Like, I wonder how much this is going to be about, going on after people are no longer around and that type of stuff too. Because I can't imagine Loeb didn't adjust things.
I'm sure he did a bit. Like, it's not like he wouldn't have touched it in 3 years, but but I do like though that like most of what the story was probably already like planned even before, like when they originally did this issue, it was probably plotted out because he's setting up some characters and things that are going to be in it. So I suspect that we're going to go. I did notice though when I looked at the last page of this, I remember when I read it the first time, it said the end, or is it, or something like that. It was kind of like a question, as if it was teasing there might be more. Whereas this version of it just says to be continued because it's coming next week.
To be continued? Question mark. Right. This is just a period.
Yeah. There's no question. It just is, right. It's coming, which is cool. And it's funny that it's been so long since this first came out that I'd forgotten it was even a thing. And it wasn't until someone reminded me, hey, this is a reprint, and you already talked about it. And I'm like, wait, did I? And sure enough, I looked and I was like, oh, I did talk about it. What did I say? So, yeah. But I think it's a solid one shot. I mean, I assume you liked it because you don't seem to be.
Yeah. No, definitely. And again, it was mainly just because I hadn't read Dark Victory. And now that this was coming out, I was like, well, I don't have that much time. I'll just read it, and, I'm sure I'll fill in the gaps. But yeah.
I mean, I don't think you'll have trouble understanding this coming book if you haven't read Dark Victory, but I would highly recommend you because it is, it's the last in a trilogy. I'd recommend it.
It is in my backpack right now. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Well, there's your homework, Matt, for
Mm-hmm.
next week.
And I already looked forward to next week's books, and there's a lot. So it's gonna be a real less movies this week for sure.
Oh, sure.
I'll say that much.
All right, okay. Well, that wasn't really a review per se, so I won't get us to rate it. But yeah, cool. All right, excellent. All right, one last thing then. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book of your choosing at one of the higher tiers. And we've got a new contender who actually gave Matt a choice. So Matt had a little bit of power over what I was going to read here. And the choice ended up being Planetary. So this is Planetary issue 1 by Warren Ellis and John Cassidy. So yeah, interesting to get into this, especially since obviously Outsiders, the modern book's been a thing, and I have a little bit of context for some of this to some extent. So yeah, this introduces the characters for the most part, is what it's doing. We get Jaquita Wagner, who of course I know as Drummer, but that's not Drummer. It's not Drummer in this though, because that's another guy. But and then this Mr. Snow character,
Elijah Snow. Yep.
Yeah, Elijah Snow. Sorry, yeah. See, you can tell Matt's read this already recently.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like he's waiting for her in a diner, and she comes in, and he's not very welcoming exactly, but she's there to offer him a job to join Planetary, because a 3-man team. Although there's a mysterious 4th member who's paying for everything. We get a little hearing about. But it's like, hey, you could waste away. She says he's 100 years old, although I don't know if that was like just her being hyperbolic or if he's literally 100 years old, because they don't mention that he's got like like
Jay Garrick, right? He ages differently. Yeah.
I don't know if there's something supernatural about him or like metagene about him or whatever, but he basically reluctantly agrees, and she takes him to the helicopter and fly off. I guess this book has a very specific sort of color palette where it feels like it's not pastels, but it's not like strong vibrant colors. There's a lot of light blues and light oranges.
They're not quite muted though, because right when you see Drummer and he's wearing that purple jacket with the green shirt, it pops against the rest of the colors. But it's not, I would say, it's not overly vibrant though. So. Yeah,
but at the same time, there's this kind of harsh white light. Like there's a panel of Snow when he's sitting in the diner when he's talking to Jaquita, and like just the light hitting his face just feels really harsh. Like like you can almost imagine being there and like sort of putting your hand up to cover your eyes because it's that uncomfortable sunlight that's just kind of annoying, rather than anything else. But yeah, he gets like a fancy credit card. He's given a nice suite to live in. He gets a haircut, a new suit. He's cleaned up real good. And Wagner comes and gets him and says, "Hey, we've got a job. On we go." And he's trying to ask questions about where they're going and what's happening. On the coloring, actually, when you mentioned Drummer having the bright colors, I think she also has a little bit of she has a bit of red on her outfit that's otherwise black, and it does kind of feel like the characters in like this team all have color, where the world they're in is a bit more muted or whatever. Maybe that's like a sign that it's trying to be more the real world rather than sort of fantastical DC, even though there's a bunch of superheroes we find out in a bit. But they do establish here that Drummer can talk to machines. They do bring that up. They say that here when they're explaining something. I don't know what Snow's powers are yet, because I assume he has something. Because they've not said it yet. Obviously, there's indications that Jaquita Wagner has super strength of some kind. She jumps out of the helicopter in a bit and just lands. She doesn't need to go down the ladder. I think Drummer says she can like kick a rhino across a cliff and be fine, which is a bit of humor attached to it. It's not quite that, but I do love though. There's a moment when they're in the plane on the way to their mission, and Drummer's like drumming with his sticks, and there's a moment where Snow just reaches across and like grabs his hands, and this made me laugh because I remember being in high school and like the people who were drummers would just sometimes just have their sticks out and would start drumming on the table, and you just wanted to grab them and slap them and be like, no, stop this right now.
So my brother's not a drummer, but he does have ADHD, and he will do this or his leg will get going, and you're just like, bud, just sit still for a second. It's very hard to watch movies with you.
I mean,
Because he's got to constantly always be moving.
I mean, sometimes I'll shake my leg for a bit, but
Yeah. But there's a certain rhythm to it that he's, that is very akin to this drumming type thing. So yes.
So the mission here, though, is that there's a secret, like, man-made, like, system inside a mountain, right? They've done scans of a mountain, and there's, like, a man-made, like, sort of cutout inside of it. And it ends up being basically a Hall of Justice style place for a team of superheroes that existed back in like World War II times. And the reason why they even know about any of this is because one of the people that was in the team, Axel Brass, wrote a bunch of journals which the KGB confiscated and hid for years that Planetary eventually got their hands on. And that's how they learned about any of this. But when they go inside this like secret like superhero base, they find Axel Brass like sitting there. He's been there for like what, probably 60 years.
Yep, and he's essentially atrophied.
Yeah, his legs are all like skinny and whatnot. But he's just sitting there with two pistols. He's still alive, and he's standing guard. And then like he has to like once he like sort of learns to not like shoot them because at first he's like are you hostile. He basically kind of explains what this place was and who the team were and what happened here. And we get a very sort of JSA looking like full page spread of like him walking in and his team's all there. My favorite's probably the shadow looking type character who's got like the hat and like the metal mask. He's looking pretty spiffy, I have to say. I also love that there's a guy who has these long horror movie style fingernails, which he does not look a hero at all. He looks like a villain, but he's on this team, so I'm just going with it. Matt's keeping his mouth shut because I feel like he's.
I am because I'm way ahead. On
I know, but
some of these have been answered, and it's also if you understand who Axel Brass is supposed to be, you can pick who these characters are representing here, right? Because Axel Brass is meant to be what's his name? He was the Man of Bronze. He was the pulp hero. Oh God, it's drawing a blank right now. I want to say Dr. Atlas, but it's not Dr. Atlas. But yeah, he was kind of the proto Superman type character. So yeah, the guy that looks like the Shadow, representing the Shadow. The guy in purple that has, animal print on, representative of Tarzan. So these are all kind of characters that represented pulp fiction. Sure. Which was like, a precursor to comics and whatnot. So yes.
As an actual fiction that was pulp, not the movie Pulp Fiction, which is very different. I'm like, which one's supposed to be Vegas and which one's supposed to be Marcellus Wallace? And does he look like a bitch? Like these are the important questions. So anyway, it's like, hey, they've built like a fancy. It actually looks like a Green Lantern. That he's holding, actually, the scientist one. He's like, hey, I've built this thing. And they're going to turn it on, and they're going to see what they can do with it. It's something about, I don't know, like, they're going to look at the universe in a way that they've never looked at the universe before. And it creates, like, a universe map, and they explain that it's basically a computer, right? But it's and keep in mind, this is during World War II. It's 1945, so the idea of a computer in 1945 is pretty rudimentary by today's standards.
Yes.
But they're talking about how this computer basically creates alternate realities where all of the possibilities play out in very quick time. Like sort of, like to the universes it wouldn't be quick time, but to them it's all very quick. And we get this big sort of snowflake-looking universe map or multiverse map even that comes up. And every single bit of it that's spinning is a universe living out its entire existence and dying. And then at the end, in a fairly quick amount of time, the computer will find the right answer by the universe that survives at the end. And effectively what happens here, and this was somewhat interesting, I was kind of like, okay, this is, I like the introduction to the characters, I like the pulpiness of some of these characters that are in this like old superhero team. And as he's explaining this, I'm like, okay, this is all right, this is fine. Like, I'm kind of into this for the most part. The exciting part to me, though, is what actually happens, is that basically the threat that killed out the entire team of, like, Axel Brass's superhero team, as we see in the present day, like, snow is, like, picking up some of the like, fabric that's on the walls, and it reveals that there's computer circuitry behind everything. it basically, one of these universes that realized they were going to die, they realized that they were in like a universe that was on a timer because its only purpose is to serve this computer, like trying to solve a question. I'm just going to call them the Justice League of this world, basically doesn't want their universe to die and comes out of their universe. Like there's one that very much looks like Batman. There's a very much looking Wonder Woman character in this bunch. Legally distinct, because when this was written, I'm pretty sure DC had nothing to do with them.
Wildstorm, yeah, they might have still been in like a... Did Jim Lee sell them? I don't think so yet. So yeah, definitely they were playing real close to the edge.
Yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe.
Yeah, but I remember at some point in the late 90s, early 2000s, Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC. So
sure.
Well, but I don't know if it was in the frame of when this came out.
I think this was the early 2000s though, so this might have been after DC.
Yeah, so this was 98.
Maybe you're right. But this may have just been a creative choice if it wasn't like a copyright choice. But regardless, what works with this for me is this idea that this is where I got really excited, because the idea that a universe that existed and is about to die, kind of like the Dark Multiverse stuff during that whole period early on with Scott Snyder, is this idea that this universe realizes that it's just meant to be there to then die, and they're all going to die with it. And the Justice League team of that universe is like, no, we're not accepting that. We're going to save our universe. That makes sense. And them coming out to fight this team and being like, yeah, they're probably going to try and take over our Earth so that their population could populate this one instead. I got instantly excited by that concept, because we don't know this team. We don't really know anything about them. All we understand is that they've realized that it's kind of like, it's not the exact same because it's literally a universe, but it's almost like like a story about a computer, like simulation, like the characters realizing they're in a simulation and not being satisfied with that and wanting to like ascend to the real world. This is kind of like that, where it's like, no, you're going to kill our universe, and not because you created a universe because you wanted to see a universe die. It wasn't malicious like that. It's just, this was the happenstance of this technology you created, was that it creates universes and lets them die, and we're not willing to just go away. Like, you created all this life and we're going to fight back and try and survive. Certainly thematically, I can see some connections already to that Outsiders book that is just wrapping up. But yeah, so there's some fighting between the two superhero teams. Axel Brass is the only one who's left. They win. They defeat everyone, and he just stayed here in case anyone else came through one of these universes, because it was still spinning for a lot of this time. So he finally gets to stay, to go away, and then that's basically the end of the book. It's just it's a Snow and Wagner like on top of the mountain, just kind of discussing like how weird this was, and is like, hey, is this what Planetary does? Is there like, did we get a lot of stuff here? And she's like, yeah, we found a bunch of stuff. We found this quantum computer, and all that, and basically just it's almost like a mission statement for the book, where it just ends with him saying it's a strange world, and she says, let's keep it that way. So yeah, it was a very good issue. It was a little bit oversized. It was about 30 pages versus your normal amount. I think it probably needed to be, though, because it had to it was a story of two halves. Half of it was like, here's the characters. We'll have one of them be a new guy on the team, so he has to get a lot of things explained to him. That's just standard storytelling technique. But you've got three characters to introduce, and then you've got basically, here's the weird type of story that this book's going to be doing, and it's a little bit meta, and it's a little bit whatever. And obviously the way this transformed into that Modern Outsiders book was this idea of the characters who have been erased in Crisis want to come back and are disregarded, and it's kind of poking at the meta nature of that. I can already see fragments of that in here, and it already feels like, I don't know how serialized this is going to be compared to Outsiders, but it does feel like it could just be a bunch of standalone issues like Outsiders mostly was, based on this first one. I could see each one just been a different mission, and this is what they discover on this one, or maybe some of it ties together over time. I don't know, but I'm curious to find out. So, as long as this is a Patreon book, I'm excited to read some more.
Yeah, it's real good stuff. I'll tell you that much.
And
it was
Yeah, because you've just read it as well recently, you get to like actually understand everything I'm talking about, which I'm sure
Yes.
sure is nice for you.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Yeah, the art, obviously Cassidy is a very solid artist. It's a very clean style, I would say. It definitely, it's got that it's a little pulpy but very modern at the same time. It's kind of how I describe Cassidy's art. And obviously it's maybe a little fitting as well that I'm doing a Cassidy book for Patreon just, after he's passed away recently. Is nice. It's nice to sort of read one of his works in the aftermath of that. So yeah, very good. Yeah, curious. Honestly, it's nice when these Patreon books are making me go back and read like an important run or series that I've not read before.
Once you get a couple issues of this under your belt, you'll look at Outsiders and be like, oh, okay, I appreciate what Kelly and Lansing were doing.
I imagine I will. I imagine I'll appreciate it more. So, all right, cool. As for a rating, I'd probably give it probably an 8.5. I think it. I think that extra 0.5 really came from like what came out of the universe towards the end in the story. Like once it got to this idea that the heroes of this world weren't going to let their universe die, and it instantly made the people who created the quantum computer, basically the gods that created their world, were instantly the villains to this team of superheroes because they created their universe with no intention of letting it survive. So that they were instantly the enemy, and it led to this fight. And I just think that's a really fascinating idea. So, all right, cool. All right, then. That will take us on to the final part of the show. Favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course, top 5 books. So, Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
All right. So, I mean, we have Eclipso at play. We got some cool stuff in Allwinter, but the one that stuck with me the most is Diana holding the sword and saying, "I'm not just a girl with a sword." And then the entire sequence that happens after that, where she deflects the thing. But that moment of her holding the sword, real good stuff there. So that's mine.
Okay. For me, what am I thinking about? There's a couple of nice Wonder Woman moments. There's definitely some great stuff in Allwinter. The explosion of green, or the kind of the agreeing to take Batman along for the ride afterwards. I think there's tons of moments in Jenny Sparks I could probably pick. I think what I'm going to pick, though, is something from Wonder Woman. I'm going to go with the end of the backup, though. I'm going to go with just that page, basically, of them reacting to Damien telling the story and Lizzie wanting to kill him. I think that, for me, that is just, like, that comedy beat just really landed.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with that. Cover of the week, which I have not had a chance to look at, so I'm hastily doing so right now.
Yeah.
I will say there's a cover for what was it? I think was it Superman? I don't know. There was one. It was like Jessica Cruz by Jose Garcia Lopez, which fine artist, but not feeling the short hair on Jessica. I got to say,
she's got to have the longer. It's part of her vibe.
Yeah, not feeling that. Because
it helps cover up her eye that has the lantern symbol on it. So.
Yeah. Was not feeling that. I'm sorry to say. But as for looking through the rest of these, there's a pretty cool Phil Jimenez Wonder Woman cover, actually. It's got the old school like stars in the background and his big sort of curly long hair.
It almost looks like that's going to be a cover on a collection down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I'm picking a favorite, though, I got to go with the Federici variant for Allwinter, which is Slade with a Viking helmet riding a horse, and he's topless as well, just to make it super macho and whatnot. But obviously it's that Federici art, super painted looking. Love it. What's your pick?
Yeah, I mean, all the Allwinters are good too. There's a Skylar Partridge one that's got a sword dividing, right? It's got Slade and Rose on the side. They're all Vikinged out. Red background. More for last issue than this issue, but it still was quite striking. But my pick is it's from World's Finest, and it's Adrián Gutiérrez, and it's got it split diagonally, right? And you have Superman and Batman both heading down towards the bottom, and on the bottom it looks like Gotham, and everything's purple and blue, And then where Superman is, it's green, and Metropolis, it almost looks like the sun with a green sky. Fantastic work. So that one's mine.
All right, cool. All right, art of the week.
I mean, Wonder Woman's fine, right? Gutiérrez for World's Finest. If we're not talking Tim Sale for Long Halloween, Last Halloween, it's got to be Allwinter.
Yeah. I think Jeff Spokes is great on Jenny Sparks, and I do think Gutierrez was very good on World's Finest. But yeah, it's got to be Tirso Cons on. I mean, actually, it's not even just him; it's the whole book. So it's Cons and Federici. As a package. It's just that's so hard to beat. So, yep, that's my pick as well. All right, Matt, top 5.
All right, 1's gonna be Allwinter. 2 is going to be World's Finest. 3 is Wonder Woman. 4 is Jenny Sparks, and 5 is Superman.
You had Wonder Woman above Jenny Sparks?
Yeah, I told you I really like that one. They had equal. Because remember, I gave Wonder Woman a higher score than you did.
All right, fair enough. My number 1 is. Oh, this is actually quite tough. I'm going to go number 1 Allwinter, number 2 Jenny Sparks, number 3 World's Finest, number 4 Wonder Woman, number 5 Superman. Spiking at default, but didn't love Superman obviously, as mentioned. So cool. That is that, which I will now tell you what is coming next week from DC Comics. We've got Detective Comics 1089, Action Comics 1069. Is that Gary Frank cover?
Well, that's what it looks like. Let me double check.
It looks Gary Frank-esque, doesn't it? Maybe I'm...
Definitely from the thumbnail, so... Yeah,
it may not be that I've clicked on it, but I mean, just the...
No, it looks like it... Now in the full, it looks definitely Eddie Barrows.
Yeah, it was the 2 kids at the bottom just looked very Gary Frank-esque when it was small. Anyway, okay, so Action Comics 1069, Green Arrow 16, Titans 15, The Flash 13, Zatanna Bring Down the House 4, Harley Quinn 43, Batman The Last Halloween, again, hate that they had to keep both there, just call it The Last Halloween. But that's issue 1. Absolute Power Task Force 7, issue 7, Batman Brave and the Bold 17, Absolute Power Origins issue 3, Power Girl 13, Outsiders 11, which is the final issue of that, I believe, Lobo Cancellation Special issue 1, that's a weird title, and that's pretty much it, other than a Wayne Family Ventures book. So cool. Yeah, pretty interesting week. Detective, and Titans and Zatanna. So even Action, I'm actually really enjoying the Gail Simone stuff. So I'm
kind of I mean, I'm looking forward to Zatanna, and then just so you know, the Long Halloween has Eduardo Rizzo art for the first issue.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess arguably that's the main event, and next week is getting issue 1 of that because it is a big deal that they're doing a new one of those. So. All right, cool. That is pretty much the show, everyone. That has been Comics from the Multiverse. Thank you very much for joining us on this Odyssey. Holy, this has been 2 hours and 40 minutes. My God. So there you go. Solicits week's always a big week. It was about big books as well, to be fair. I mean, not like a big list of books, but I feel like there was some, hefty discussions, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus the Solicits went pretty long.
Well, yeah, it's always a Solicit. I mean, the Solicits are always a factor, though. But I feel like even with Solicits, it didn't feel like it should have been that long a week. But whatever. No complaints. Hopefully you enjoyed your meaty episode. You can let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments or via your Twitters or whatever else you do these days. Not that I really do much on the Twitter anymore because it's all going to shit. But yeah. Like, subscribe on YouTube, helps us out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support the show and help keep it coming at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Worth mentioning, if you are signing up for Patreon, recommended that you don't sign up and pay via iOS, because iOS now charge an extra 30% on every price. And
shame.
It's literally
Apple.
just cheaper to go in a browser to the website and sign up that way. You can still use the iOS app to access it and like log in and like you know, use it, but if you're signing up and paying, do that on any other
No, that's if you did sign up beforehand, it's fine though, right? Like
yeah, I think so. Doesn't
if you signed up for the app, it's just anything newer that you do, right?
Yeah. I think if you signed up on the app a long time ago, it's probably fine. But basically they put on like a tax now on Apple.
Yeah.
And so you can get around it, but no one's getting any benefit from it. You know, I'm not seeing an extra penny of that. Neither's Patreon even. It's just Apple taking a cut. So you know, just log into your computer or a browser on even another phone or something and do it that way.
Remember when we thought the internet would make things easier?
Capitalism exists, Matt, so no.
Yes.
Capitalism. But that is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.